Hello, everyone. I believe we're live now. Welcome to Big Blue Jabroni's Sunday Snap Count, my weekly show I'm going to do on Sundays. And I'm very grateful to have Chris on the first episode. Thanks, Chris. And anyone who doesn't know who Chris is, I'd be very surprised. But if you want to introduce yourself, please go ahead.
Oh, thank you for having me on, man. Absolutely had a blast having you on last Sunday on my channel. So I figured I'd pop on, do a quick segment with you today. And my name's Chris. Entertainah Talkin Sports, got a Giants channel. Sports channel, but obviously mostly Giants. And man, just love talking sports, man. So, the second you asked me, I said, let's rock and roll.
Thank you again. Private chat. Oh, okay, here we go. Now we're rocking and rolling. I'm starting to learn how to use this. All right, beautiful. All right. I'm just going to start off with the first question here. Story came out. Well, basically, how do you feel about the Leonard Williams trade? Every time I go on Twitter or on Instagram, whatever, I think this trade is getting so bashed, and I don't think it was that bad of a trade.
Okay, here's the thing. I like Leonard Williams, the player. I think Leonard Williams is a good player. The problem I have with the trade, there's two problems I have with the trade. One, the Giants I don't think should have been looking to acquire players when they did. They were 2-6 or 2-5. They were out of it. So it never made sense for me for them to give up any assets. Now that they give up a ton, at the end of the day, they gave up a third-round pick, and which they'll probably get reciprocated when Leonard Williams does leave for a comp pick, right? Because they'll probably get a comp pick if they let him move on after this year. So it's not that bad of a trade. The problem that happened, the biggest problem from the trade for me was the fact that they put themselves in a situation where they forced themselves to franchise tag Leonard Williams, where they wouldn't have had to do that had they not traded for him. They probably would have been able to get him for $12 or $13 million.
Well, the way that I see it is I really don't see us as much of a free agent destiny right now. I mean, guys are going to go where they get paid. I understand that. But now at least he's under team control. And if you look to see who Dave Gettleman has drafted in the third round, we all agree that he's great at drafting, and this is his thing. It's not like he's gotten any huge studs for us. We got B.J. Hill. He's sometimes invisible in the field. We got Lorenzo Carter. We're all waiting for him to pick up. We used Sam Beal with the supplemental pick, which was a third-round pick. He doesn't ever see the field. At least we got a player out of it, maybe somebody that we can grow with. And if so, he's a third-round pick, and let's say you have a third-round pick that busts. It's not like you really think about it that much. I understand the money is really the big factor, but I don't think we were one splash signing away from going anywhere anyway. So now he's under team control. He could hopefully be a centerpiece in that defensive line. And if he works out, great. And if he doesn't, we just wash our hands of it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it wasn't a great trade, but at the end of the day, it's not going to kill us. It's a one-year commitment, and I'm in agreement with you on that. It's a one-year commitment, and it's not like him eating up an extra $4 or $5 million in salary cap really prevented the Giants from bringing in a big-time player anyway. So at the end of the day, was it an ideal trade? No, but is it the end of the world? No, I agree with you on that.
Yeah, I just see that. I saw there was an article, worst trade in Giants history, and I didn't even want to look at some other trades because I was like, there's no way this is the worst trade we've ever made. The guy sees the field at least. I mean, we traded for Alex Ogletree. It can't be worse than any of that trade.
Well, yeah, when you look at it like that, Ogletree was more than a one-year commitment. We ended up giving up, I think, a third. I think it was a similar price tag. I think it was maybe a fourth and a fifth.
I wish we only had him for 1 year.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Leo Williams was at least productive for the New York Giants last year, and I think he'll be productive this year. I think he fits the scheme very well. And like you said, I'm sure there's been worse trades before in New York Giants history. At the end of the day, the team's not doing well. People are looking for reasons to be upset, and it was a reason to be upset, and it probably got over amplified because of it.
I just see this as a trade. Like if Bill Belichick did it, they'd be like, "Oh man, they swindled the Jets. They got a former All-Pro 26-year-old for a third-round pick. Bill Belichick's a genius, but now we're losing. Everything's a bad move."
Well, yeah, I mean, look at the Patriots last year. They gave up a second-round pick for Mohamed Sanu. They were desperate for a wide receiver. They gave up. Now it makes more sense for them to make a trade because they were a win-now team, but that trade's just as bad, if not worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Because he's not even their number one receiver. They need to kill Harry to hit.
Yeah. So it was a desperation move because they were so thin at that position.
Also, I'm going to real quickly kind of go over how I want this show to go throughout the season. I'm going to have it more or less as like a preview show going from 12 to 1. I'm going to be doing my weekly picks. Hopefully some other people in the chat will do their picks for week 1 as well. And then I'm going to have like a 3-team parlay that I kind of go at the end. And I also have a trophy on the way. And at the end, whoever has the best picks out of my channel, I'm going to send this trophy over, all shiny, for whoever comes up with the best picks at the end of the year. Shout out to some of the people I see in the chat: Midwest Sports, Alex Sports. Thank you again, Bob Clausen. He checks out every stream. That's big Jabroni. Thank you for checking it out. What do I think of the Odell trade? I think a big part of it is when Saquon Barkley hit, and 4 games into the season, we all kind of knew, okay, this guy is the real deal. I thought that was definitely going to make Dave Gettleman's job a lot easier of trying to get this guy out of town, because at least we have one generational talent, one guy who can touch the ball and just go. I feel like maybe if we had Wayne Gallman as our running back still, and we didn't really have any of those pieces around him, we kind of have to be a little bit more stuck with them. But I think Saquon Barkley hitting as well as he did and being the leader he is, he's an adult, he's the leader of a room. They said, okay, we've got our sensational guy now. They did pay him after that, but for his trade value to go up, you got to pay him so other teams know what they're getting themselves into. How do you feel about the Odell trade now? Yeah,
as far as the Odell trade goes, I'm in complete agreement with you that they couldn't trade him the year before. He was coming off a year in which he only played 4 games, coming off an injury. Teams didn't know what they were going to get. So I think they knew they had to sign him. Now, I don't know if they signed him to trade him. They probably initially signed him hoping that he would straighten himself out. And you remember he showed up to training camp and they gave him his contract after the fact. So I don't think that they necessarily signed him to trade him. But once they got to the point where they traded him, I laugh at people who say that there wasn't a legitimate reason. The guy was a nuisance off the field. We remember all the stuff he did with Eli Manning and the reports and the cocaine and some of his actions on the field. So there were definitely reasons to trade him. And I think the Giants looked at it as an opportunity. And they said, if we wait another year and this guy continues to do what he's doing, he's saying he wants to leave New York, we're not going to get near as much as we can. You take a look at some of these other trades. Antonio Brown, they got next to nothing. Even DeAndre Hopkins, they didn't get nearly as much as we did. So, I mean, when you look at what the Giants got, they got $15 million in cap space because that's what Odell was getting paid. That's something that nobody ever factors in. And they added 3 nice players to the defense with O'Shane Ximines, Dexter Lawrence, and Jabril Peppers. And then you figure that they cost about $7 or $8 million. It gives you another $7 or $8 million to spend, and that went towards Golden Tate. So the way I look at it is they got Golden Tate and those 3 defensive players for Odell Beckham, and they also were able to draft Darius Slayton in the 5th round, who looks like he could be a good receiver for the New York Giants. You're never going to replace Odell Beckham. The guy's a supremely talented receiver, but I completely understood the trade, especially bringing in a young quarterback, and you see how he treated Eli Manning. You don't want a diva wide receiver when you're trying to groom a young quarterback. So I was never against the trade. I was completely for it. But I'll be the first to say I'm not an Odell Beckham guy.
Do you think when it happened, everyone was ripping the Giants? How do you get rid of this guy? You could have at least got 2 number ones. Do you think now that the trade has kind of looked a little bit better for the Giants now, that it's kind of hurt these future wide receiver trades? Like Stephon Diggs didn't go for all of that much. DeAndre Hopkins, we've talked about, he was basically given away. Antonio Brown, it was a different situation. They just wanted to get rid of him. But do you think that has hurt the market for trading for wide receivers now that this Odell one hasn't really worked out for the Browns as they thought they would?
I'll say I'm pretty sure the Diggs trade, they got a lot. I don't remember what the trade was, but I'm pretty sure they got a first and a bunch of other picks. I remember I was surprised with the Diggs trade. The Hopkins trade, I didn't understand what they were doing. Houston, I know that there was some kind of tension they said there, but they didn't get nearly enough. I don't know. Here's the thing. Right now, it's perceived that the Giants won the trade by most people. But if Beckham goes out there and has 1,500 yards this year, people won't feel that way anymore. But the way I look at it is the Giants couldn't have lost that trade because he didn't want to be here. The Giants were looking for a fresh start, and they got what they could. And I thought that they got a good enough price tag. So I don't really care what Odell does this year. I don't care if he wins the MVP. He didn't want to be here. He was a nuisance in my opinion, at least, somewhat. I know people say he was a good locker room guy, but I was never a big Beckham guy. I never viewed him as a team player. And I'm glad he was traded.
I was an Odell apologist for the longest. I was like, he's so talented. Lawrence Taylor was a knucklehead too. We got to make it work. And then he did that Lil Wayne interview, and I was like, get him out. I tried to put up with him as long as I could because he was so talented. But the second he went on ESPN with a rapper throwing his QB under the bus, that was when I officially was like, okay, now you got to get rid of him. There is no saving this. And I think it might have been a lot of Giants fans' turning point as well. Obviously, probably the most talented wide receiver we've had in maybe the entire franchise's history. But like you said, if he doesn't want to be here, we don't need him here.
Yeah, I mean, you take a look at the Giants over the course of history. We've never had. I mean, yeah, of course we had Lawrence Taylor, we've had Strand, but most of our Super Bowl runs were not filled with superstars. We were filled with players that were good, that knew their role, and they were team players.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, another story that came out this week, Anthony Harris was apparently close to being a Giant. The all-star safety coming from Minnesota. He's in a bit of a contract talks with them. He's a player who's going to play on the tag this year as well. If the Giants were to trade for him and give him a deal, I imagine that would have had to be part of the trade. Who do you think the Giants would have went in the second round? I think it would have been AJ Espinosa. We needed a pass rusher so bad. That's who I thought that they were going to go with in the second round. Is there anyone that you had circled on your board?
It's funny that you say that, because when I saw you write the question to me on Twitter, I went and looked at the draft board in the second round. Epinesa was the second guy that I thought that they would go with. And I completely first off, I think they would have traded down in that situation. I think they would have traded down. Word had come out that they had an opportunity to trade down, but they thought that McKinney was too good of a prospect. But if they were to stay at 36, I actually think Gross Matos. I think they would have went Yetur Gross Matos, who I think went 38. But the reason I say Gross Matos over Epinesa, we have the defensive line coach from Penn State, Coach Chaos. And you look at what the Giants did this entire offseason. They look for familiarity. You could probably argue that Gross Matos fits our scheme better than a guy like Epinesa. You run like a 5. I think he's good, but I don't necessarily know if he would have been an ideal fit for the New York Giants defense. I think they would have went with Gross Matos. But I think
definitely a pass rusher, yeah.
I think edge rusher.
Yeah, I was surprised when they didn't go a pass rusher until as late as they did in there. But one thing you always got to give Dave Gettleman, he does not care what the expert says. He doesn't care what the fan says. He's going to build the team in his image as long as they let him come here. And that's something you have to appreciate, especially with the New York media hounding down him every day. Everything he does is the worst move ever, and we're trying to burn him down. But he does not care. He's going to go with his guys. And as long as he's here, he truly believes I'm going to go with these guys. And that's about as far as it gets, which I always appreciate about him.
Yeah, he sticks to his guns, and sometimes he's going to look smart and sometimes he's going to look dumb, but he's willing to take that chance when he feels he's right, and that's what I respect about him more than anything. Not a lot of GMs would have the balls to draft Saquon Barkley. Not a lot of GMs would have the balls to trade Odell Beckham. He did what he thought was right, and I appreciate that about him. Now, sometimes I'm not going to be happy, but I do appreciate that about him. He doesn't fold to pressure.
Yeah, the two running backs he's drafted in his GM career, not too bad. Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley. So both picks that he got ripped for making.
Yeah, when you're doing your fantasy drafts this year, think about that. The first two picks in your league are going to be guys that were drafted by Dave Gettleman.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, another one thing I don't think that's getting talked about nearly as much this offseason is because we all just assume Dallas is going to have this great line because they have for so long. They have a rookie center this year. He's the one who makes the calls. As the Giants fans, we can attest to how important a center is because we didn't have one all of last year, and it killed the running game all year. I just think that it's going to be a really big part of their offensive line is going to have to replace an all-pro center that everyone loved to a rookie, and they're kind of just going, okay, it's a wash because he was one of the higher rated centers. I know a lot of Giants fans, me included, would have loved to have him, but do you think that's going to affect Dallas in a big way this year?
Yeah, Tyler Biadasz, right?
Yes, Wisconsin.
Yeah. I was a fan of bringing him in, but the thing with Biadasz is he's got an injury history. That's why he fell to where he did. And you're not replacing Travis Frederick, especially in year one with Biadasz. Travis Frederick was probably the best center in the game, and you saw the impact he had on that offensive line. He missed 2018, and they were slightly above league average without him. He came back last year. They were ranked number 2 and in both run and pass blocking last year. So he was a cornerstone to that offensive line. I don't think a rookie is going to come in there and have the same effect. And I agree with you. I think a lot of people may be overlooking that. Similar like the Browns last year. When the Browns lost Zeitler and their offensive line worsened, everybody was looking at all their sexy pieces, Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, David Njoku, and they said, oh, this team's going to blow up, and they didn't. That may affect the Dallas Cowboys offense a lot more than people think. I tend to agree with you on that.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Some other people in the chat I'm going to shout out. We've got Giants Alliance. Check out his channel if you haven't already. Afghanistan, the biggest New York Giants fan on YouTube. Everyone knows that he's on all of them. Thank you guys for checking out. Brandon Rogers, I was on a roundtable with him. Giants Lions question right here. I think I might be able to get this to pop up. Oh, there we go. In fantasy football, who would you take at number 3 if Barkley or McCaffrey weren't available?
I'm just letting you know. I don't know if it's on your end or my end. It's a little staticky. I'm just letting you know for the listeners. As far as in fantasy football, if Barkley and McCaffrey are gone, ooh, that's a good question. I think it's got to be a running back. I'm trying to think. I'm not a huge fantasy guy. I've not done a lot of research on the fantasy yet. Those are definitely the top 2. I'm trying to think of the next running back. I'd be looking for a guy that catches passes.
Dalvin Cook on the board, Zeke, Henry.
I'd probably.
I would go with Patrick Mahomes just because at least you know you're not going to muff your first pick.
I might, as crazy as this might sound, I might go to Michael Thomas. I'm not in love with any of those running backs you just stated. I might go with Michael Thomas. The guy gets a ton of targets. If it's
Absolutely.
a PPR league, I might lean wide receiver there.
Yeah, no, even if he doesn't have the season he had last year, you know he's going to get 150 targets. And if you're like really into your fantasy team and you're watching the games, you know he's going to get the ball at least thrown to him a million times. Kamara is another good pick as well because he's a running back who gets it out. He had a little bit of a down year according to him or a lot of fantasy experts, but he's obviously a great player. But yeah, Patrick Mahomes might not just be a bad one because at least you know he's going to be given every opportunity to succeed, and he's going to throw 35, 40 touchdown passes. And if you take someone like Derrick Henry or something like that who gets injured, it's really going to hurt your fantasy team. You got to hit on those first couple of picks.
Yeah, my theory in fantasy football, at least in a 1-quarterback league, because I play in a lot of 2-quarterback leagues, is to punt on the quarterback. I don't take a quarterback until the last couple of rounds. That's always my theory. Just because there's only 10 starting quarterbacks, you could always find pretty solid quarterbacks later in the draft. I really hit home with the running backs and wide receivers early on.
Yeah, because you can get Matt Stafford in the 10th round or whatever, and you can get the best wide receiver, best running back, your team's going to definitely be set up for success.
Yeah. Sure.
Derrick Henry is a beast. Thomas is so good in fantasy. 2 QB. I do like the 2 quarterback systems. You said you play in a league with 2 quarterbacks?
I've been in 2 leagues for about 15 years. Both of them are 2-quarterback leagues, and I much prefer it. I do not like, a lot of people probably have never played in a 2-quarterback league. I don't like the fact that you could just punt on the quarterback position in a 1-quarterback league. It completely changes the draft philosophy because in a 1-quarterback league, like I said, I don't touch a quarterback to the 10th. In my 2-quarterback league, depending on my draft position, depending on how the board plays out, I've drafted 2 quarterbacks in my first 2 rounds before because because you have to start 2, it makes the position much more valuable.
I also like the 2-quarterback system because when you're choosing a game to watch on TV, the first thing you pick out are, okay, which quarterbacks are playing? It's a quarterback-driven league. Why not get some more quarterbacks onto the team? They're the most fun position to watch. Last year, I was in a 2-quarterback team. I had Russell Wilson, which was obviously great for me, and then I had Carson Wentz. That didn't really pan out. He kind of dragged me down a little bit. But yeah, because when you're picking the games, you want to watch the best quarterback play. Everyone loves fantasy football. Let's get some more quarterbacks onto the roster.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of the 2-quarterback league. My friend's been doing it like before it was even like, even really that known. You're talking about going back 15, 16 years. We start 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, I started the first time I ever did it was last year, and I never even heard of it till then. And I said, "Wow, this is a great idea." Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Yeah. Did you watch the? Oh yeah, I saw you stream the Yankee game last night.
Yeah. The Mets. I mean, at the end of the day, it's an exhibition game. I'm not getting too much into it, but yeah, I'm a big Met fan, and I'm just excited that sports are back. Like I said, I don't read too much into it. They're just trying to get their feet underneath them. But the Yankees are definitely going to be a great team this year. They're probably the best team in the sport.
Yeah. Did you ever start watching that show, Last Chance U, yet?
I did not. I'm still in the middle of watching House of Cards. Once that's completed, I'm the type of guy that I don't like to watch multiple shows at the same time. So once
didn't get it done.
Yeah, once House of Cards is done, I'll probably check that show out.
Yeah, the new season's coming out, so I just got an update that the new trailer just dropped.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
Yeah. Some Lewis Sports Networks. If you need receptions, I'd go with Thomas. If you're looking for another running back, I'd go with Thomas. If you're looking for another running back, isn't he a wide receiver? I don't really quite get that one.
No. He says I'd go with Thomas. I'm not looking for another running back.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, that makes more sense.
How many games do I stream per week? Well, you talking about football? Or you talking about baseball? If you're talking about baseball with the Mets, I mean, being that there's nothing on, I'm not going to stream every game, and I'm not streaming today. But I'm definitely going to stream like the home open. I'll see how it goes, because I know there's a lot more Yankee fans than Met fans. And if the Mets and Yankees are playing at the same time and Bad Dog streaming, they're probably going to go to the Yankee stream. But I'll see how it goes. But I'm definitely going to stream my fair share of baseball games. And I know that basketball is going to be popular as well, especially being that Bad Dog does the Lakers. So when he's doing the Lakers, I'll probably stick and do the Mets. So I'm going to do my fair share of Met games. I'll do at least 2 or 3 a week. If they make the playoffs, I'm definitely going to be doing a ton of them. And with basketball, I'm going to be doing a ton of playoff games. Football, obviously, I do every Giant game. And I try to do at least 1, if not 2, primetime games every week, whether it's Thursday night football, Sunday night football. It's a lot of fun. I love calling games.
Also, have you ever been so excited for regular season baseball? Usually by this point of the season, it's kind of near the All-Star break. You kind of know who's good, who's not, and it kind of gets to that lull because there's so many games. Now, with only 60 games, if you looked at the projections, everyone kind of is right there in the middle. I think it's going to be a regular season Tuesday night game is going to be a lot more exciting than it usually has been.
Well, yeah, I was talking about this with my subscribers the other day. It's like 1/3 of a season. So basically every time you get a win, it's almost like you swept your opponent. Like it's that much more important than it normally is. And it's basically like 30 teams are thrown in the middle of a pennant race. So it's going to be a really exciting 2 months of baseball that I'm really looking forward to. I love baseball, but this I think should attract more fans that maybe aren't in love with the sport because it means a lot more.
Also, they haven't watched any sports in months. So if you're not like watching Korean baseball or like Romanian soccer, you're just foaming at the mouth for some sports. So right. I expect to see some really big numbers for that first week of baseball. Hopefully they can keep it up. I hope they do some fun things with it without the crowds. Like the same thing I was saying with football. This is an opportunity. It's hopefully going to be the only season we really have it like this. I hope leagues lean into it. I want to hear the crowds. I want to see guys having fun. I think baseball has had such this rugged way for so long of their unwritten rules. And I think this year, hopefully, throw some bat flips in there, have some fun with it. I think guys like Tim Anderson and Acuna and the young guys, they can shine in this opportunity. And I hope that baseball really allows them to do that.
Yeah, and one thing that I thought I didn't hear it because I have to mute the TV when I'm streaming the game, but I listened back after. The crowd noises were pretty good. It sounded like when I closed my eyes, it sounded pretty realistic, the fake crowd noise that they were pumping in.
Yeah, they were pumping in from their video game, the show I saw. So, I mean, have some fun with it. Well, I would like to have maybe some those dugout interviews that they have, like in between innings. I think just like a little bit more access to the players. Like you're going to be the only sport on for a while. It's going to be a different type of season. Let's try and gain viewers instead of just trying to hold on to the ones that they have now. Baseball's audience is only getting older. You don't only have a lot of newer, younger fans. And I think this year is going to be, with only 60 games, if you do some of the funky, fun things, maybe guys like them, you keep it. And if they don't, who cares? Get rid of it next year. Like the universal DH is going to stick around for a little bit, but we'll see for how long. The 3-batter minimum, things like that. I just think, I don't know, it'd be exciting to see.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of some of these new rule changes, but it is what it is. Like you think about situations where you'd want to bring in a lefty specialist to pitch to one great lefty batter. He has to stay in now for 3 batters. So I get why they're doing it, but at the same time, it's kind of hurting the value of certain players, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. But also just another thing is like baseball's just been so stuck in its ways for so long. Just to see him do 2 major changes in one off season, it's very surprising. Like football, they'll change the rules every year. They don't care. One bad play, you know what? Boom, new rule. Baseball, they just don't want to roll over for anything. And to see him do 2 major changes in one season, I thought it was just really eye-opening. And maybe them acknowledging like, hey, we're going to have to change some things up. Because the World Series did not do great numbers last year. It did basically like preseason football game numbers.
And then you couple that with the fact that the cheating allegations after only hurt the sport even more. And then during this pandemic, you had the owners and the players couldn't agree on the amount of games they were going to play. Otherwise, we would have had more games. We would have been playing sooner. So it has not been a good look for baseball recently.
Yeah. It also kind of stinks that they're not going to be able to boo the Astros all year, because that was going to be every new city they went into, that was going to be a storyline. Oh, how is this fan base going to react to it? How do these guys going to react to it? It would have been great to see them come into Yankee Stadium, every single at-bat, every single pitch, the fans on their feet, booing away. Just because, once again, the season's so long, the games start to feel mundane eventually, especially it's a long sport, 3.5, 4 hours a game. For you to pump some excitement into these, it would have been really nice to see.
Yeah, I tell you what, man, it's hard to stream a baseball game because, like you said, it is long. I love watching baseball games. I pretty much watch every Met game. But when you're just watching on TV, you can get up in between innings. You can get something to drink. When you got to stream a baseball game, it is slow. It is definitely. You're right. It's definitely a grind to be a hardcore baseball fan.
Yeah, well, in other sports also, where if you miss some of the third quarter of a basketball game, well, as long as you're there for the fourth, you'll kind of get the whole story. A football drive, you can feel like when there's a big third down, or like, okay, this play is important. Baseball, I don't know. Oh, they just hit a home run. That was a big play. Like, they kind of just come out of nowhere, unless it's really late in the game or things like that. So it is really easy to look up all of a sudden. You're like, oh, how'd they get that guy on base?
Right, exactly. It's kind of like a show where you have to pay attention to every little intricate detail.
Yeah. Oh, when did they switch a pitcher? I wasn't even paying attention to that. Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Right.
I'm going to go to some other questions here. Just tune into the stream. What do y'all expect when players report to camp? I expect rookies to be there. I expect every question on earth from every reporter to be, oh, how did they respond COVID? How many guys in the locker room? Things like that. I think it's going to be such a bubble that they're going to try and lock down these facilities. I think it is going to be really tough that you can't have an entire team meeting, especially when you're a first-year coach and you're trying to drive home the points you're trying to make. Maybe it'll help because it'll be easier to keep the attention of only 20 guys in a room than all 60 or 80 guys that they invite to camp. And maybe it's going to hurt some of the first-year coaches a little bit less because they don't really quite know what they're doing. It's their first year doing it. Where if you're a Ron Rivera or a Belichick, you're kind of stuck in your ways. This is what we do day one. This is what we do day two. And now all of a sudden they're going to kind of have to figure it out. But I think it's just going to be a lot of questions about how COVID basically for the first couple of weeks. I don't think you're going to get as much access as you usually do. There's obviously some really interesting camp battles. Can't go to mini camp this year, obviously. Don't want anyone near the guys. But how do you feel mini camp's going to look this year?
Yeah, I think the rookies report in like 3 days. I think the rookies report the 21st, and then you got the whole team's supposedly going to be there the 28th. And we'll see if everybody's able to get down there. I think that's the first challenge, or up there probably in a lot of people's cases. That's the first challenge because obviously the travel restrictions to Jersey. And obviously the first thing that we're all going to be worried about is, like you just said, is everybody healthy? And I think that will be the biggest storyline in all NFL training camps to start, and how they're going to be able to maintain the players' health. When they're at the facilities and when they leave and go home. So that will definitely be the biggest storyline, not just in training camp, I think all season in the NFL, because if one guy gets it on your team, that is bad. Obviously that it could start to, multiply and everybody starts getting sick. So that's going to be imperative for them to try to keep every player healthy on the team. The other thing, a guy like Nate Solder, for example, they have now opt-out clauses. Is Nate Solder going to play this year? I think that's a legitimate question mark, being that he has a sick child at home, things like that. So those will be things that you worry about. But yeah, of course, the attention will definitely go to football. And the guys that I always look at when you go into training camp are the guys that are kind of fringe guys that are going to make the roster, the undrafted free agents. Obviously, the camp battles, the center position is huge, right? We don't even know who our starting center is right now, along with a bunch of other things. But yeah, it'll be the camp battles and the COVID-19. And obviously the coaching staff too. You want to see how Joe Judge handles himself in a, first-time head coach. You want to see how he handles himself in his first training camp.
Yeah, I think Hard Knocks is definitely going to be more interesting this year than in the past because it's kind of became the same show every year. I think a lot of people are going to want to see how are teams handling this? Like, what are these guys doing? So I think that'll be really cool. They are also doing 2 teams this year, so maybe you'll see different teams handling it different ways. So yeah, because that's kind of show has become dead over the last couple of years. They don't give you the access that you kind of feel like you're getting because the whole Antonio Brown thing happened last year and you didn't really see it much on the show. But it'll be really nice to see, okay, are guys getting tested every day? How are they getting tested? Are guys being separated? You see the NBA, like a guy like Russell Westbrook got it, but luckily nobody else on the Rockets has been tested or has tested positive so far. So at least it kind of looks like they have been able to handle the bubble or how to isolate these guys correctly. So I think that's a good sign for future sports going forward.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now the thing with the NBA though is they have a bubble, so it's definitely going to be a bigger challenge with the NFL to have a full season. That's what I worry about. I think they're going to start the season. You know, I don't know if they're gonna. We'll see if they get to the regular season, but I think they're going to attempt. But I worry about if players start getting sick, how they're going to handle it. That's going to be the biggest challenge. I think the NBA is going to go. I think the NBA is not going to have many hiccups because they're in a bubble. They're in a controlled environment. So I don't see the NBA have many problems. But the NFL, I think, is a major question mark.
Yeah, the NBA, if they were going to have their toughest task, I think they're all out of the way now. Getting the guys in there and then getting them tested. But now you can kind of get it all cleared up and nobody in, nobody out. You shouldn't expect anyone to get it. You got to be a little bit more worried about the people who work in the bubble and what they're doing. But it looks like they've handled it very well. I was very nervous when this thing all started. Even though a couple guys have tested, it doesn't look like it's slowing them down.
Right. No, I think the NBA is good to go. And I say it all the time. I think Adam Silver is the best commissioner in all sports. I think the way he's handled it has been terrific.
Yeah, also he's a very player-friendly commissioner, which usually you see the commissioners always lean towards the owners because that's who they work for. The NBA is definitely a players' league. They run the league, so it makes sense for him to be more of a player-friendly commissioner. But I thought he's done very well, and I don't know who exactly put this whole together. I imagine ESPN had a lot to do with it because they have the NBA. They're owned by Disney, and it kind of works out for everybody. But I think it's a perfect situation for them. And I think the NFL, there's just too many players. I don't know where you would put them all if you tried to do a bubble.
Yeah, and it's just too long, you know. Like this is for the NBA, it's kind of like probably like 2 months. NFL, you're talking 7 months. I mean, I just it's too long that you'd be away from your family and stuff like that. I don't think the players would ever agree to it.
Also, just another thing that was pretty interesting this week is it seems like the Giants have been giving Nate Solder a ton of vote of confidence. They still really like him. They see him as a leader. Most Giants fans, me including, kind of expect him to be definitely off the roster next year because of the cap hit. Do you see any way of him being back with the Giants this year or next year with a lower number, or do you think that he's just going to try and take the highest dollar somewhere else?
Well, okay, if he's willing to lower his contract, yeah, that's possible. But if he's not, no. There's no way he's coming back for $20 million a year when you could cut him for 6 and save 14. He's not worth $14 million. That's what I always ask myself. When, you know, when the dead cap hit is a certain number, is he worth the difference, you know, between what he's getting paid and the dead cap hit? And Nate Solder's not worth $14 million. Not to mention we got a lot of depth on this roster at that position. A guy like Nick Gates has shown he could step in and play well, who doesn't make a lot of money. Obviously, we all have high hopes for Matt Parrott, and we'll see, you know, if Fleming's back next year. But the Giants have a lot of talent at that position. I just don't see it, unless, like you said, he's willing to take a huge pay cut. But at that point, he'd probably make more with another team. So I just don't see it.
Also, you're going to have to pay him at least $6 million because he's going to be like, well, just cut me and I'll take my $6 million. So, right. I mean, for you, and then if you're paying him $7-8 million, I can still see Giants fans screaming about that because he's just been so overpaid the last couple of years. One thing I do have to say about Nate Solder, though, he's terrible. I get it. I understand why we all don't like him. He's still better than Eric Flowers.
Oh, God, I'm better than Eric Flowers. But Nate Solder, to me, I actually think I've talked about this before. Not saying he's going to be great. I think he's going to be much better than last year, but that's not hard. But I think I'm expecting average tackle play from Nate Solder. I think he's going to play much better this year. If we do have a season, I think he'll bounce back a bit. I really do. I think a lot of his troubles had to do with Daniel Jones, and that's not a knock on Daniel Jones. He was a rookie quarterback, But if you go back and you look at the advanced statistics, Daniel Jones held on the ball a lot longer than he should have in a lot of instances. And I think Nate Solder obviously gave up more pressures because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a little worried about Hernandez. He's been working really hard on social media, though, and everyone kind of really likes him. I think he kind of, like all the fans, kind of joined on his side from that Dallas Monday night game where he was basically trying to fight everybody on the field. He was trying to stand up for his quarterback and everyone. But he hasn't really been – he was a little bit better as a rookie than he was his last year. So definitely some worries out of him. I do expect him to show some improvement this year, but that's another Dave Gettleman pick that's going to have to blossom this year.
Yeah, and I think he will. I like Hernandez, and now especially if they put Thomas on the left side, I think Hernandez will play well this year. I really do. I think he struggled last year due in large part to the fact that he was sandwiched between Solder and Jalapeno, who might have been the worst center in the NFL. I think the improvement on the left side will definitely help him. I like Hernandez. You know, I know a lot of people might be down on him a little bit. I still think he's going to be a very good offensive lineman.
Have you ever watched his YouTube video, how he spent his first $1 million? I love the Eli Manning story about that. When he tried to stick him with the bill, that was good.
Yeah, he bought a toilet. Yeah. I watched it. It was funny.
I'll go to Lewis Sports Network. Just read that Watson, Mahomes, and other players are calling the NFL on health concerns for training camp. Yeah, J.J. Watt also put another post out about this. Of course, a lot of these guys are going to have their concerns. I mean, even if you just work a regular job, you're going to have concerns going into it. So I don't think the NFL has really – they don't want to put their entire plan out there because if people don't really like it, then it gets bashed and then you have to start up from square one. I think they're doing it right. They're kind of really keeping it close to the chest. It does obviously sound like they are going to be reporting to camp and these guys are going to want to play. I think it's a smart move by the NFL to not really put all their cards on the table and try and wait for college football, see what they do right, see what they do wrong, and improve on that.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with that. I don't really have much to add to that. I can't blame the players for having health concerns. I'd have health concerns too, you know, especially if they're around older family members, things like that. It's something that you got to really worry about and question when you're going in. You're literally tackling people when you shouldn't be within 6 feet of people. So I think it's very fair for the players to have health concerns.
Who at the NFL thought, let's talk about the jersey swaps? Who even thought that up in a meeting and thought, yeah, this will be some good press for us? That now everyone's going to feel safe.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a good idea to try to limit as much contact as possible. But when you're out there and tackling people for 3 hours, you know, sharing locker rooms with these guys, I don't think swapping jerseys is gonna save many people from getting the virus. So I think it was more a PR thing than anything else.
Did you see that? I imagine you saw the new face mask that has giant holes in it. Like, guys, yeah. We got to worry about testing and keep the guys safe and not worrying about transmitting it on the field. If they already have it and they're on the field, a face mask and a jersey swap isn't going to save anyone.
No, you're absolutely right. It's about the precautions before they get out on the field.
Giants Alliance. What are your record predictions for the Browns? They really improved their O-line with Conklin and Jedrick Willis. They definitely needed a lot of tackle help. Baker seemed like he was running for his life a little bit, and he's not the athlete he thinks he is. Until the Browns prove me wrong, I'm never going to expect much out of them. I think ownership, general manager, everything starting from the top is just a mess. Like the Washington Redskins. Yeah, they draft a great player every year because they draft at the top of the draft every year, but they never really pan out because they're going to the Washington organization. I see the Browns as another struggling season, maybe like 6-10, and they're going to have to burn that whole team down to the ground again. I don't think Baker's their guy. I think that set them back for many years.
Now last year I was all aboard because everybody was hyping the Browns last year, and I was all aboard the overhyped train. I said they were going to go 6-10, 7-9. Didn't believe in them. This year, I actually believe in them. I think they're going to make the playoffs this year because of what Giants Alliance just said. I think Jedrick Wills was a great pickup for them. Conklin's the best run blocker maybe in football. And I think they have the weapons to get it done. They added Austin Hooper, which I think they overpaid for, but he's certainly going to help the team. And they've got a lot of weapons to throw to. They've got some talented players on the defense. We'll see. They brought in a rookie head coach. That always is a factor going in. I don't think they're going to win the North. The Ravens are too talented, but I think they'll get one of those wild cards. I expect the Browns to be a pretty good team this year.
mean, they do obviously have a ton of talent. Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward's a really solid corner. Nick Chubb, there's nothing not to like. But I just think that they got the quarterback position wrong. I'm not a believer in Baker. I think you need a guy who can put the fire out if you're going to bring in all these divas and high-profile players, and not a guy who's just going to fan the flames. And I think that's going to be the Browns' downfall.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. This is a put-up. If there is not a quarterback in the league this year, probably with more pressure than Baker Mayfield, because he's got no excuses. You added arguably the best tackle in this year's draft, even though we think Thomas is, but some people had Wills. You added the best tackle in free agency with Conklin. You added a very good tight end with Hooper. He has zero excuses this year not to put up really good numbers and win football games. So it's all on Mayfield this year. But, yeah, if he's not a good NFL quarterback, of course, they'll struggle. And I'm kind of on the fence with Mayfield. I don't know what to think. But if he can't get it done with the team they've given him, he's not going to get it done, period. Also,
it doesn't help in your division that a guy who gets drafted the same year as you is winning MVP and changing the way we look at football. So that's who he's going to have to put up or shut up against, Lamar Jackson. I do think he's going to get slowed down a little bit this year. I don't believe in a running quarterback for many years. There's always a good saying. You have running quarterbacks. I'm trying to remember what is it. It's something about running quarterbacks not lasting long. If it comes to me, I'll say it. But
no, I'm in complete agreement with you on that. And Lamar Jackson might be spectacular again this year. He might be spectacular the next 3 or 4 years. But long term, I am not a fan of Lamar Jackson.
He doesn't even really have the body frame for it. I mean, Cam Newton got broken down. How the heck am I not supposed to think that this guy's going to start breaking down?
Yeah, no, I'm not. But I would not. If I'm the Ravens, I'm not giving him a 5-year extension. I don't believe in players like that. He's going to take injuries. Quarterbacks are not meant to run for 1,300 yards. Like you said, he doesn't have the body to hold up in the NFL if he keeps taking hits. And he has to play that way to be successful. So it's not like you could tell him you got to be a pocket passer, because if you do that, he's not going to be a good quarterback. That's not his game. So I just don't believe in him long term. I think if he's going to win a Super Bowl, it'll be within his first 4 or 5 years in the league.
Do you think Mahomes has kind of changed the QB market and that guys are going to be signing longer deals now? Do you think Watson signs like a 7-8 year deal? Or do you think he's just kind of an outlier? He's so talented that he's kind of an anomaly.
It's a great question. I think the only way it happens, it has to be a guy that's very young. You're not going to sign a guy that's 27, 28 to a 10-year. Well, maybe you will. But I think it's going to have to be a guy that's like 24, 25. Maybe a guy like Burrow, for example. If Burrow gets off to a great start, his first 2 years in the league, maybe they give him a big extension. Maybe a guy like Trevor Lawrence. But I don't think any current quarterback in the league, Watson included, will be getting a 10-year contract. But the per-year basis, I think he did set the market. I expect these guys to try to command at least close to what he got on a per-year basis once they hit the open market, which is insane. I continue to say that the quarterback's the most overpaid position in all of sports. I'm not saying Mahomes isn't worth every penny if he wins your Super Bowls, but there's not – history shows you when you pay a quarterback that type of money against your cap, you're not going to win.
Yeah, absolutely. Watson won't get signed long-term. 5 to 7 years won't happen. GMs will have questions on his health. Yeah, he does have – well, I think if he signs that long of a deal, it would only be with Houston. It really depends on his relationship with Bill O'Brien, him being the coach and the general manager. I think he's a great coach, terrible general manager. I think he's not doing himself any favors. But I think that would be the only team that would be wanting to sign him for that long.
Yeah, I try to think of other quarterbacks that could get that kind of contract. There's in the league right now, Watson's probably the only one that's possible. Wentz has already signed his contract. Dak isn't getting that. I just don't see many other quarterbacks. The other guys are older. So he's the only guy that's possible, but I'm with you. I don't see him getting any more than 5 years probably in terms of an extension because of the fact, like Brandon Rodgers said, the offensive line there is abysmal. And I'd have questions about whether or not he could hold up.
Yeah, with already a knee injury in the pros, knee injury when he was at Clemson, 10 years is just, I mean, like we were saying earlier, it's a baseball contract. You just don't see him in the NFL.
Yeah. It's really a 12-year contract for Mahomes.
Yeah.
Because they're going to, the 2 more years. And I think it's a mistake? I mean, I think they're going to pay for that on the back end of that contract. But by the same token, if you win your 2 Super Bowls, you don't care. And you got him and Andy Reid now paired up for the next 6 or 7 years probably. So you got to be happy about that if you're a Chiefs fan.
Yeah, when I saw him sign that deal, I was thinking, is basically Andy Reid just get another 12-year extension? Because if Mahomes goes out there and says, well, I really like Andy Reid, this is the guy I want to be with, I can't see him coaching that much longer. He is just starting to get a little bit older. But I thought if I was Andy Reid, I'd be cheering because that's really going to give me some security staying here for quite a long time.
Well, yeah, Andy Reid's going to have the opportunity now to go down as one of the best coaches who ever lived. Because, I always said it. I always said Andy Reid was the greatest coach not to have won a Super Bowl before he won it. I mean, you look at what that guy did with the Eagles. He never had a ton of talent. They were always winning 10, 11, 12 games. Came to the Chiefs, a team that had won 4 or 5 games the year before. They haven't had a season in which they've won less than 9 or 10 since he's been there. He always gets the most out of his talent. He just didn't have that Super Bowl ring. So he got that. And now with Mahomes back, long-term commitment, if the Chiefs could rattle off 2 or 3 more Super Bowls in the next 5 years, Andy Reid's going to go down as one of the greatest coaches who ever lived. So he benefited more so than anybody with this.
He also has an amazing coaching tree. Like anyone who's near Andy Reid long enough eventually gets a head coaching job, and all of his guys seem to hit. Frank Wright, I mean, he's obviously done great in Indianapolis. You've got Matt Nagy, who's he took Mitch Trubisky to the playoffs, so he's got to be the real deal. And then you have Doug Peterson, who's won a Super Bowl. I think that's another really thing that just shows you how great of a coach he is.
Yeah. I think Pat Shermer coached under him. That didn't work out. But yeah, sure. Yeah. You're right. Andy Reid's coaching tree is definitely very, very accomplished.
Yeah, that's another reason why I think Joe Judge is going to work well. I've talked about this before. I think now Belichick's looking around and he's seeing some of his rivals or people that he's gone up with, that their coaching tree has done really, really well, and his maybe not so much. And all these guys want he wants to win the most Super Bowls. He wants to win the most games. He wants to have the best coaching tree. And I think, like, if there was that real famous Bill Parcells was calling the game for Bill Belichick when he was coaching for the Browns, and they're going for the drive late in the season, and he goes, all right, Bill, we can do this. Let's get this going. They want to see their guys succeed. And I think he's going to probably wants to see Patrick Graham and Joe Judge succeed, because it looks like Matt Patricia is a dumpster fire in Detroit right now. And he wants to kill the narrative that the Bill Belichick guys don't work.
That's a great point, because that's really the only knock you could have on Bill Belichick if you're looking for, other than the fact that, the Spygate and all that. But in terms of wins and losses, that's really the only thing that you could knock on him. His coaching tree has not been good. I often point to the fact that a lot of those coaches, though, I think went to horrible situations, and a lot of them probably weren't ready to coach like guys like Josh McDaniels when they got the opportunity. Obviously, we hope Joe Judge is. I like Joe Judge, everything that we've heard so far, and I'm confident that he's going to do a good job. But, I think we need to express patience. Another reason for optimism, you look at Flores last year. Flores did a great job with the Dolphins, who came in at a similar age. I think he was right around the same age Judge is now. So I'm optimistic with Judge, and it's a good point you bring up about Belichick and his coaching tree.
I'm not as crazy about what they're doing in Miami. I know a lot of people really like what they're doing here, but I mean, you traded Minka Fitzpatrick, and then you drafted a DB, who I think is not going to be as good. You traded Laramie Tunsil, and then you drafted an offensive tackle who I don't think is going to be as good. I do really like Tua. I think he's going to be a very good prospect. I don't want to see him start this season. I think that there's no rush. But I don't really quite understand like the whole bandwagon right on Miami. I'm not buying Miami this year. I think they're being overhyped. What I said basically last year, they were expected to win 1 game though. They won 5. So yeah. I think Flores deserves some credit for that. But they won late in the season when everyone knew that they weren't going to win anything, which is even tougher.
Yeah, so I give Flores credit for that. But in terms of the Miami Dolphins, to me, might be the most overhyped team in football this year. I'm hearing people saying that they're a sleeper. They could go to the playoffs. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that at all. To me, last year, they were an XFL roster that was able to find ways to win games. To me, they still don't have enough talent, even with all they spent in free agency. I still think they're the 3rd, maybe even 4th best team in the AFC East. I am not buying Miami. Ryan Fitzpatrick, historically, who's the starting quarterback right now, goes through ebbs and flows. 1 year, he'll be really good. The next year, he'll be atrocious. Last year, I think he did better than people expected. Very good chance he comes back down to earth this year. I'm not buying Miami at all.
Yeah, if he's expected to be the starter, then he stinks. But when he comes off the bench and it's supposed to be his last hurrah, that's whenever he plays well. Which always, I mean, it's a hard way to keep your job in the NFL, but he's done it.
Yeah, 100%. And I see Brandon Rodgers talking about Patricia there. That's another thing I want to point out. Belichick, historically, a lot of the guys that have left him have been known as guys that are good in one specific area, and Patricia's one of them. Patricia was known as a defensive genius, and there's a number of guys that have been like that. McDaniels, for example. McDaniels was a quarterback guy. But what the good thing about Judge is he's kind of a guy that's known for having experience on both sides of the ball. So I like that. But keep your eye out on Detroit this year. And I know I'm going to sound crazy, and sometimes I have off-the-wall predictions. That's my deep sleeper this year. I think Patricia saves his job this year. I think Detroit makes the playoffs. I am buying Detroit as a deep, deep sleeper this year. I like their team makeup. I actually think they're going to surprise a lot of people.
I have the complete opposite view on Detroit. I think when Tua starts playing later in the season, and if he hits the way I think he will, the GM's gone. I think the coach is gone, and I think they're going to be starting to look at Stafford. He's been there for quite a while. He throws a ton of touchdowns. He gets a ton of yards. He doesn't have a single signature win. The NFC North has been ripe for the winnings because Rodgers never has a defense. The Vikings never have a quarterback. The Bears have obviously been shaky, and I think they're going to look at it and go, we took a corner over a franchise quarterback. And I think that's going to cost a lot of people their job there. I think they're going to be another dumpster fire. I think the locker room's already give up on Patricia, and they kind of the same way you see a lot of basketball teams are like, okay, as long as we stink, this guy's going to be out of here, and then we're going to hit the reset button.
Yeah, no, I listen, man. History's on your side. History's on your side. It's definitely an off-the-wall pick by me, but I look at the Lions last year. They started off pretty well. They almost beat Kansas City early in the season. I think they started 2-1-1. They were 3-4-1 before Stafford went down, and then they lost their last 8 games. And Stafford last year, I think, had 19 touchdowns and 5 picks. He was on pace to have near a 40-touchdown season in the new offense. I don't know. I look at Hawkinson. I think he matures more this year. I love to pick the running back that they got in the second round. I can't remember the name of the
DeAndre
Swift. I think he's going to have an immediate impact for the team. I think Okuda's going to have an immediate impact on that defense. And I like the weapons. I think Galladay's a really good wide receiver. I'm buying Detroit a little bit. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that you pointed out the NFC North is a really weak division. I'm not buying Green Bay. I think they take a step back this year. I think they benefited from a soft schedule. Minnesota lost a lot of veteran pieces. I'm buying Detroit a little bit this year. And yeah, maybe I'll look crazy.
And I'm buying Oakland. That's my surprise team that a lot of people think that I'm crazy about. A lot of people see them finishing third in their division, but I don't see them beating Kansas City and winning the division, but I think that they're going to actually put a really solid season together. I can see Matt Stafford ending up somewhere like Oakland because it's clear that John Gruden doesn't love Derek Carr. He brought in Mariota. He's never really put his arms around him. It's not like he drafted him. I can see maybe if they want to go in a different direction, them picking up Stafford because I know Derek Carr, his hit isn't that much if they get rid of him after this year.
Let me give you another quarterback that I love. One of my favorites. To me, he's either a quarterback you absolutely love or you absolutely hate. I'm a big Aaron Rodgers fan, always have been. If you're the Green Bay Packers, you went out there, you drafted Jordan Love, right? And I think that was unexpected. The Packers coming off a 13-3 year. They spent a ton of free agency the year before. They're a win-now team. They go out there, they draft Jordan Love. Then they draft the running back that was supposed to go in the 5th round and the 2nd round. Can you see Aaron Rodgers after this year? Say the Packers go 9-7. They're starting to show signs of regression. Does Rodgers force his way off that team?
I would be very interesting. I would like to see him go somewhere else. I feel like he's bailed out that franchise basically since they put him in the starting role. Obviously, there would be a market out for him, even with the age and price tag. He's just that talented. I can't see him being traded to somewhere like Detroit or anything like that. He's obviously not going to stay in the division. You can't do that.
No. Same thing with Favre. They had to trade him to the Jets.
Exactly. Yeah, to get him out of town. But yeah, especially with the way that basically the salary cap is set up now, to where a lot of people kind of have the belief that you got to win with your quarterback on the rookie deal. I don't really buy into that. I do understand that quarterbacks are probably being a little bit overpaid. But if I have a guy and I've groomed him to be a better quarterback than he was as a rookie, you just kind of have to bite the bullet and pay him. I would be excited to see him play in Oakland or Las Vegas.
Yeah, well, that team could make sense. How about, I hate to say it as a Giants fan, how about the Cowboys?
That makes a lot of sense, and I would really well. Hopefully, he hates McCarthy and doesn't love him.
Well,
we really don't quite
true,
know.
That's
but
true. That's true. The McCarthy thing. That's a good point. Good point. Because I'm looking
he
at
won a Super Bowl with him. Maybe he loves him.
Yeah, well, they didn't have a good ending, but if say Dallas doesn't bring back Dak Prescott, first off, he can't choose who he gets traded to. But let's say they don't bring back Dak Prescott, and they've got a set up offensive line. They've got all the wide receivers there. It would be a better situation than he's had in his entire career. Fun fact about Aaron Rodgers: the guy's never thrown a touchdown pass to a first-round wide receiver in his entire career.
Yeah, I saw that on draft night. That's just insane.
Yeah, so it just goes to show you the help that they've given him throughout his career. But I look at a team like that. I think he would want to go to a team that needs a quarterback that is in a position to win a Super Bowl. And Dallas is the first thing that pops up to me if they don't bring back Dak Prescott.
I think that actually makes a lot of sense but especially that Dallas has that $30 million put aside because they're trying to get the Dak Prescott deal done. Now you end up paying Aaron Rodgers less than it looks like Dak's going to get on the open market.
Yeah, it's just one of the teams I've thought of. There's a couple of others. Brandon brings up New Orleans. If Drew Brees retires this year, that's certainly a possibility. The Jets are a possibility. They've shown the willingness to trade for veteran quarterbacks in the past. If Darnold doesn't play well this year, the Browns are a possibility. There's a couple. There'd be a handful of suitors for sure.
I don't think New Orleans works all that well for him because now all of a sudden, if he doesn't do what Drew Brees down there, it does because him and Drew Brees have kind of been looked around as the same. Both have won Super Bowl. Both put up a ton of numbers. I think you'd rather go somewhere like Dallas that hasn't had that much success, and you want to put them over the top compared to trying to just fill Drew Brees' role.
Yeah, and I agree with Brandon. In an ideal world, they would trade him to the AFC, but I think it all depends on the package that they'd receive. But it's an interesting spot that the Packers put themselves in by drafting Jordan Love. I don't think any of us expected that on draft night.
No, absolutely. I got the update because everyone's trying to break the news and all of that. Packers are going to draft Jordan Love. I'm like, ooh, someone take this guy's check mark away. This guy's nuts. There's no way they're taking him over like Denzel Mims or anybody who was on the board at that point.
Yeah. I really thought he was going to go to the Patriots.
I did too.
Yeah, when I saw he fell to the Patriots, I'm like, all right, New England's going to take him. But New England ended up getting Cam Newton, which is another really interesting story. That, to me, is the most interesting, outside of our Giants, of course, is the most interesting storyline in the NFL this year. Who's better, Brady without Belichick, Belichick without Brady? That I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, when they first broke the news, I made a video on it, and I said, oh, man, this makes no sense. This guy's not going to buy into it. He's got his own little agenda. He seems to be a little bit like a lone wolf in the locker room at times and kind of doing his own thing. But if he hasn't eaten some humble pie yet, I don't know when he will. He's going to go in there, get treated just like one of the other guys, and they're going to be like, you got to beat this guy out. I don't think they're just going to hand him that starting job. I think he will start week one. I think he's just way too talented. If they really believed in Jarrett Stidham, I don't think they'd be looking for quarterbacks. But I think, and also, it's Josh McDaniels' offense, not Bill Belichick's. And he won a playoff game with Tim Tebow. So he thinks, oh, now I have Cam Newton. I could definitely win a playoff game with this guy.
Yeah, I mean, you look at New England over the last 20 years, they get the most out of their players. And now you're handing them a quarterback that when he's healthy is one of the 10 most talented quarterbacks the league has to offer. Now, is he going to be the Cam Newton old? We don't know, but we'll see. And if there's any team that could get it out of him, it's New England. Kind of like what the Eagles did with Michael Vick after everything. Andy Reid got the most out of him. I think Cam Newton could be in for a big year with New England, even without the great weapons. I still think that New England could be still really good, really good.
Also, another thing is if he goes to camp and whatever, he shows up out of way, he doesn't get the playbook right away, or if he's out of shape, they'll cut you day one. They don't care.
Oh, they don't care.
And then that's going to send off a signal to all the NFL teams that he's maybe not ready or he's not doing this all as much. But so he's got a lot of pressure on him. He took a tough job because he's going to have to either shine or if he's going to go, well, if he can't work in New England, if they can't make it work, we can't make it work here.
Yeah, here's what I'm going to say. It's either going to be the best decision he ever made or he's going to be done. Because if you can't make it in New England, you're not making it. But if he goes out there this year and blows up, he's going to get paid. He is going to get paid for a guy that a lot of people thought was done. And it may not be by New England. It might be another quarterback needy team. But And I think he's going to get paid. I think he's going to have a good year. As far as Bob says, he says Brady versus Breeze, is there a better week one quarterback matchup? They're going to play each other twice this year. You're talking about two of the top 10 quarterbacks who have ever lived locking horns twice. That's going to be a huge storyline, and enjoy it while you can, because this is probably Drew Brees' last year. There's a good chance that Brady's probably retiring within the next 2 or 3. So enjoy those games while you can. It's gonna be a treat to watch those two guys go at it twice this year.
Now that Brady is in his division and they kind of always trade spots for most touchdowns all time, do you think that's going to maybe nudge Breeze to stay another year? Because he doesn't want to see. Because if he takes a year off and Brady stays, he's going to obviously get that touchdown record. Do you think that might nudge him to try and stay another year?
I don't, but I think what could nudge Breeze another year. Say the Saints go out there, they go to the NFC title game and they lose a heartbreaker again, and they still have the team in place to win a Super Bowl. I could see him coming back. I'm kind of hoping that Breeze goes out on a good note. A lot of people think I hate Breeze or I don't like Breeze. I love Breeze as a player. He seems like a great guy outside of what he did this offseason. Probably wasn't the wisest decision what he said, but I'm rooting for Breeze to win a Super Bowl this year. I hope the Saints win. I think Breeze is a good guy. I do think he's overrated, and a lot of people they look at me and they say, "How is he overrated?" I'm gonna give you my theory why I think Drew Brees is overrated historically. Look at Drew Brees' splits. Obviously, first off, he plays in a perfect offensive system, right, with Sean Payton, probably the most brilliant offensive mind in the sport outside of Andy Reid. Secondly, his career QB rating outside of a dome is slightly above Eli Manning's career QB rating. He's got a 92 career QB rating outside of the dome. In the dome, it's 108. So I think he's benefited greatly from playing where he plays in terms of statistical. He's still a great quarterback. I just don't put him in that discussion with guys like Peyton, Brady, those guys. I think he's overrated. I still think he's a great quarterback.
I think if somehow Tampa knocks New Orleans out of the playoffs, or if they win the division, there's no way Breeze is retiring off of that. He's going to have to – he can't get kicked out of his own division by his biggest rival.
I agree with that. I think there's circumstances where Breeze could be back next year. And I don't think that the Saints have the answer right now. I don't believe in Taysom Hill. I don't think they have the guy that's going to replace Breeze. So they'd have to start from square one. And I think they'd want to bring Breeze back one more year if they could. They draft a quarterback next year to be his eventual replacement.
Also, a lot of people say, "Oh, Sean Payton says he's the next Steve Young." If he's the next Steve Young, they're going to kick Drew Brees out. They truly, obviously, don't believe that, or else they wouldn't have brought in Winston. I thought that was a great pickup by them because Brees obviously did miss some games last year. He does throw a lot of picks, but I mean, the kid's got a cannon. And he threw 30 touchdowns. Not bad for a backup.
Taysom Hill's 31, 32 years old. If he was the next Steve Young, he would have gotten an opportunity by now.
Absolutely.
We'll see with Winston. I'm not a big believer in Winston, but he is going to a great situation. So maybe he is the guy that replaces Breeze eventually.
Yeah, I think he's just going to be a stopgap or a spot starter when they need him. But I can't imagine all of these guys coming out of college now. They all hit. There's so few busts now. It seems like, and so I feel like a lot of guys are willing to roll their dice and pick out the guy they want. Yeah,
that's the thing in the NFL. If you're a quarterback, if you're not a top 15 quarterback, you don't keep a starter's job very long. Because yes, you look at a guy like Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota, they're good enough to start probably for 7-8 teams in the league, but those teams want to try to find the next big thing. They want to draft a quarterback, groom that quarterback. So if you're not a top 15 to 16, 17 quarterback, you don't keep a job very long in the league, and that's kind of where I feel Jameis Winston falls.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think he's any much worse than like a Ryan Tannehill. I think Tannehill stinks, but I think he was in the right situation. He was in the wrong situation.
I completely agree. I think a lot of people, when they evaluate quarterbacks, they don't look at the situation that the quarterbacks are put in. They just look at the numbers and say, oh, well, this guy's a good quarterback. You know, like Dak Prescott, for example. Well, look what Dak Prescott's provided every week. So I completely agree with you on that. I don't think Tannehill's this great quarterback. I think most quarterbacks that are successful in the league are successful because of the team around them. I think there's very few and far between that can be great regardless of the situation they're in. I'm talking 2 or 3 quarterbacks. I'm talking Mahomes, Russell Wilson, and that's about it. And obviously some are better than others. Aaron Rodgers is another one. But obviously some are better than others. But I think that yeah, you look at Tannehill, look at the situation he was put in comparison to a guy like Marcus Mariota, and that's why he was successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And also,
well,
just
not Mariota, they were on the same team. I meant Jameis Winston.
Yeah. If you don't hit on your first team, it is pretty tough for guys to have faith that you go in somewhere else. Like Tannehill's a little bit of an outlier, but he was brought in as a backup to Mariota, and then he kind of just fell into the position. But like Mariota, he showed some talent, but teams kind of gave up on him. He's a backup now. Jameis Winston throws for 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns, but he's on a different team, and he's just going to be a career backup now. If you don't hit on that first team or really pop, it's really tough to try and get yourself back into that QB pool.
Yeah, some guys are able to do it, but most aren't. I'll give you a perfect example, and it really goes to show you of why situation, coaching staff has a lot to do with it. Alex Smith was the first pick overall out of Utah. First 5 years in the league, he was ready to be done. He was ready to be backup, career backup. He was kind of like Blake Bortles in a way. And then Harbaugh comes there, completely changed the trajectory of his career. Then he goes to Andy Reid and he takes off. So, yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the situation you get put in. And maybe Tannehill now, because of the situation he's been given, takes off.
Or a guy like Josh Rosen, he played, 4 games for the Cardinals. They gave up on him. He goes over to Miami. He doesn't really see the field. And I'd be surprised if you see this guy in the league in a couple of years. If you don't hit right away or immediately, guys aren't going to invest in you and try and build you up, because these guys coming out of the draft day one, they're slinging it around the field.
Yep, you're absolutely right. And it's why there's pressure. Even a guy like Daniel Jones, there's pressure. Daniel Jones knows he's got to have a good year this year, because if he goes out there and stinks it up, they'll replace you. You're right. You need immediate results at the quarterback position in today's day and age.
And especially, I don't expect this to happen, but let's say Dwayne Haskins pops and we drafted you in front of him, then that's it. The whole everyone's going to switch their story on it, and we're going to go, okay, how do we get Trevor Lawrence? Because apparently it's the only thing Giants fans like to talk about is the draft. So
right.
That's
yeah, I like Daniel Jones. I think he's going to be good, but he's certainly under some pressure this year. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, especially that when, like we were kept talking about, these rookie deals aren't all that expensive. If you don't hit in those first couple of years, then that's it. We're not going to give you the big deal. We're going to clean our hands of it and kind of roll the dice on a new guy.
Yeah, and I'm going to give you – I see Brandon talking about Rosen. You were talking about Rosen. I'm going to give you the perfect situation for Josh Rosen. And I'm not a big Josh Rosen guy. I didn't like him out of college, not because of his talent. I just didn't think his personality would gel well in New York, so I didn't want the Giants to take him. Indianapolis Colts. I think the Indianapolis Colts are a perfect fit for Josh Rosen if they move on from Rivers after this year. If he's a one-year stopgap, they're probably going to be picking near the back of the draft, so they won't be able to get a premier quarterback. I could see them rolling the dice on a guy like Josh Rosen, at least giving me an opportunity to start. And you couldn't ask for a much better situation. They've got an unbelievable offensive line. They've got a good young running back core. They drafted the kid out of Wisconsin. And they've got some weapons. They also play in a dome. So I think Indianapolis could make a lot of sense for Josh Rosen.
I also thought New England, because you probably were able to trade to him for nothing, but if you're Miami, you can't let that guy go to New England and then be like another Wes Welker. Because then everyone's going to, that's it. You're the laughing stock of the league again. You had this guy in the building. You trade him to your rival. So I think that's just another reason, is people, they don't want to look stupid and have him go somewhere else and be so successful. So I think that's going to is another reason why he's kind of stuck back there. Also, sports extra, if Daniel Jones stinks, Gettleman could be fired, and that could lead to a new QB in the future. Everyone wants to get rid of Dave Gettleman. Everyone's so fed up with him already. If you get the quarterback right, a generational talent running back, and if Andrew Thomas isn't a bust and he looks pretty solid, I don't know what else we want out of this guy. He took over a horrible scenario. We had no money. We had no picks. Nobody really is on the roster from when he got here. I don't see – I mean, we're not winning games, and I understand that's where the criticism is coming from. But do you really have a reason of why everyone is always ready to get their pitchforks out on Dave Gettleman?
Well, one, it's New York. I mean, that's the first thing. Two, the guys made brash decisions, even though I agree with a lot of them. A lot of people hated the fact that we took a running back number 2. A lot of people hated the fact that we traded away Odell Beckham. So I think that has a lot to do with it. Also, his handling of the media. The media thinks he's a cocky guy. He's full of himself. So I think those all play factors into why people want Dave Gettleman gone. But you know what? I'm a Gettleman guy. I'm going to continue to defend Dave Gettleman when I feel like it's appropriate. And I'm going to bash him when I feel like it's appropriate as well. I do think some of the criticism with the DeAndre Baker thing is valid. Not the fact that DeAndre Baker went out and committed the crime. That has nothing to do with Dave Gettleman. But the fact that there were red flags and you traded up for the guy after the fact that you expressed culture, I could see people getting upset about that. I could understand that. But overall, I think you brought in a guy into a situation that you couldn't expect him to flip it in 2 years. You just couldn't. The biggest mistake was that they didn't move on from Eli Manning the first year he got here. But I put that on Mara more so than Gettleman. That has nothing to do with Eli either. I love Eli. I just think that the Giants it never met the timeline. Eli Manning was like 37, 38 years old. You were a team that was 2 or 3 years away. They should have started the rebuild the first year Gettleman got here. And I think that was I guess that's the first mistake that he made. But I put that on ownership. And since then, you're only year 2 into a rebuild. You had a rookie quarterback last year. You couldn't have expected to win many games. Now you got a new coaching staff. You're playing a tough schedule. I just think the expectations on Gettleman are way too high. And you got to be patient and let this rebuild see through. That's my philosophy on it. Because if you go out there and bring in a new GM, and maybe, if they hire somebody from within, that all right, whatever. But if you go out there and bring in another guy with a completely different philosophy, he's going to want his stamp on this team. He's not going to want to go out, and win Super Bowls and get them and be credited for it with guys like Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Will Hernandez. He's going to look to bring in his guys. And that's what I would be scared of if I was a Giants fan. What if Daniel Jones isn't his quarterback? What if Dexter Lawrence doesn't fit his defensive philosophy? And that's what you have to think about as Giants fans.
I think the only way Gettleman could really lose his job is if Joe Judge is like McAdoo bad. Like if he just completely whips on the head coach. Because we all seem to kind of like the players he takes, and I think the personnel's better now than it was when he got here. I think that's just the one thing that could really sink the ship. But I really do believe in Joe Judge. I think we got an adult in the room finally. I think this is going to be – I do see a little Tom Coughlin in him. It's my way or the highway. Rule with a little bit of an iron fist. I have huge hopes for Joe Judge, but if we completely whiff on him and he looks like a joke, or if guys don't believe in his system, I think that's kind of the only way we would get rid of Gettleman after this.
Yeah, I hope you're right. I definitely hope you're right. And if it was me, that's the only way I would get rid of him. We'll see. I could see ownership caving to the fan base, but I hope you're right. I hope you're right. Even if they win 5 games, I hope they keep Gettleman. I think he needs one more year to see this rebuild through. I hope you're right.
I'll go to Brandon again. Most overrated, underrated team for each conference. For the AFC, I love Oakland. I keep banging the drum on them. I think they're going to be really good. I'm not too crazy about Denver. Drew Lock plays 5 games, and then all of a sudden he's a franchise savior. I know going into the draft, apparently John Elway loved him, and that was another reason why they took him. He also loved Brock Osweiler. So it's not like other than Peyton Manning, he's never drafted a quarterback that's hit. And I see a lot of teams thinking that they're going to win the division and that they're going to be world beaters this year. I just don't see it. For the NFC, I think Dallas is overrated. I think because Dak ran for 5,000 yards, I still think they could win our horrible, lousy division. But I don't think a coaching change is going to turn a non-playoff team into a Super Bowl-bound team. And I'm not going to pick the Giants. For another underrated NFC team, I like the Vikings. They have always a really good roster every year. They don't ever really get the quarterback right, but if you look all around, they always have solid play everywhere. They always have a couple studs. It looked like Diggs was just not going to buy in, and they didn't really love him. So now they got rid of him and got some players to replace him. I think they're bound to win that division this year. I think everyone else kind of took a step back, and that they're going to be really good this year.
I like all of those picks. I specifically like the Broncos pick. I am completely on board with you on that in the AFC. I think they are the most overhyped team. I am not buying Denver at all. They had a bad offensive line last year. They lose their center, who was their best offensive lineman with Connor McGovern to the Jets. I think people look at Denver. They say Drew Lock went 4-1. They added a weapon. They're going to be good. I'm not buying it. I'm not. And I think Shermer's a good offensive coordinator. I think he can make Lock pretty good, but I don't buy it. I just don't. I think they're going to finish last in that division. So maybe third, maybe above the Chargers. But I don't buy Denver as being a playoff team this year, and a lot of people are picking them. So I'm going to agree with you on the Denver Broncos as the most overrated team in the AFC. In terms of the most underrated team in the AFC, it depends on where you rate them. I'm going to say two teams because I think I like them more than most, but I think some people like these teams. I like the Colts. I like the Colts offensive line. I like the fact that they brought in a veteran quarterback that I think could find ways to win games for that football team. I think that's all they lacked last year. They had a career backup as their starter. I think you bring in Rivers with that strong O-line, that pretty strong defense. I think the Colts could do damage this year. I actually think they're going to win the South. And in the I'll go with the Patriots as well. I think they're a little bit underrated by some. I thought they were underrated before they got Newton. I think they could very well still win that AFC East. So those would be my two underrated teams in the AFC. In the NFC, I already told you my underrated team is the Lions. I think a lot of people have them pegged for 3 or 4 wins. I could see them easily winning 7 or 8. So I like the Lions as an underrated team. In terms of overrated in the NFC, that's a good question.
Well, I see a lot of people saying the Cardinals. I'm not high on the Cardinals. I feel like they've got their little weird system. They're going to kind of do things their way, but they don't have an offensive line, so we're going to draft a linebacker.
I'm going to take the opposite approach. I hate the Cardinals. I see that.
I agree. I'm not crazy about it.
Yeah. I see that Alex said. To me, the Cardinals are the Cleveland Browns of this year. They're all flash. They're not good where they're supposed to be. This is a team that had the worst defense in football last year. They had the worst offensive line in football last year, one of the worst. They didn't improve the offensive line. Yeah, they drafted a guy in the 3rd round, but they didn't really improve that offensive line when they had an opportunity to do it. I know they brought in Isaiah Simmons. I'm not buying the Cardinals. Not to mention they play in the NFC West with the Seahawks and the 49ers. A lot of people have the Cardinals going to the playoffs because they see all the gaudy fantasy stats. I don't buy it. I think 6-7 wins. I'm not a fan of Arizona this year.
The way the Cardinals are going to be really good is they're going to be really good in Madden.
Yes, they'll be very good in Madden. They'll be very good in fantasy. But in terms of winning games, no. I'm not buying it. I maybe 7 wins, but I don't view them as a playoff team like a lot of people are saying. I think it's a joke. I saw the MVP odds, in Vegas. Kyler Murray's like 4th.
Insane.
It's insane. To win MVP, you got to make the playoffs. That's telling me that you think that it's more likely than not that they'll make the playoffs. Kyler Murray is the most overhyped prospect in the history of the NFL since I've been watching. And I'm not saying he can't be good, but people are already anointing him as one of these great quarterbacks. What has he done?
He could have a really solid season, improve this year, and still come in 4th place in their division.
Yeah, he won Rookie of the Year last year with 20 touchdowns and 12 picks. I just think people are jumping on that Murray bandwagon before they should. I'm not saying that it won't be justified sooner than later, but I am not buying Arizona, not yet.
I saw a crazy Larry Fitzgerald has more tackles than drop passes in his career.
What?
He has more tackles from interceptions and then him tackling the guy than he has drops in his NFL career.
That is a crazy stat.
I don't even understand how that's possible.
A lot of bad quarterbacks.
Yeah, a lot of interceptions, I guess.
Yeah, Larry Fitzgerald might be my favorite non-Giant ever. I love Larry Fitzgerald, but that's a crazy.
That playoff run he had was just magical. Like he couldn't do any more to get that team where they did.
Yeah, it's very rare that you see a wide receiver carry a football team, and that was one of those rare occurrences where he carried them throughout the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a shame that he never was able to get one. Like we both say, they're not Super Bowl contenders. They're not even division contenders in my mind. I don't understand how you could put them above Seattle or the Niners.
No, I completely agree with you. I might even venture to say that the Rams might be better.
Exactly.
I'm not buying the Cardinals.
Yeah. Let's go. The Cards still need some defense. Yeah. And their defense, like you said, the worst in the league. I think Isaiah Simmons, him playing such a hybrid position, you need to get him in there, see what he can do. You're not going to use him perfectly for the first half of the season. You're not going to know exactly what you have there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. And Sports Expert brings up some good players they have in the defense. We'll see. They were a really bad defense last year. We'll see if Simmons makes an impact, and maybe they'll be better than I think. Maybe I'll look like a fool and they'll win 11 games and they'll go to the playoffs. And they're everybody's hot team this year. It's them, and it's very much like the Browns last year. And to me, they're very similar to the Browns, so that's why I'm not buying them.
I mean, Chris Jones led the league in sacks, and they still had a terrible defense. So if you get another 20 sacks out of him, who really cares? Patrick Peterson, he's got to be on one of his last years. I think watching them play the Cardinals last year, Budda Baker gave up that touchdown on Caden Smith, he should have broke the pass up. He was just sitting there waiting for it like a center fielder, and Caden Smith went up and got it. So I don't really obviously watch a lot of Cardinals, but I don't think he's this stud.
Yeah, we'll find out this year. I'm looking forward to it, but I don't know. I'm not fully bought into the Arizona Cardinals. I'll say that. I'll leave it there.
All right, we actually got a little bit longer than I thought. Thank you for sticking by. You want to do like another 10 minutes and we'll get off?
Yeah. Let's go. Let's rock and roll.
All right. Thank you again, man.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What game week 1 are you looking forward to most besides the Giants game?
Oh, week 1?
Brady Breeze is going to be hard to beat.
Oh, what game am I on the Giants schedule? You mean what game am I looking forward to the most?
Yeah. How about we go a Giants game that's not in the division that you're most excited for?
I'll go with the Browns or the Bucks. Those 2 games are the games that I'm most looking forward to. Brady's last game against the Giants, more than likely, and then obviously the whole Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham versus the Giants. So those are my 2 games I'm most looking forward to.
I'm calling it now. There's no way they're not going to run a trick play with Odell throwing the ball that game. Because whenever he gets upset and he doesn't get the ball, they run a trick play for him later that game or that day. He had the trick plays when he was here. He threw the touchdown to Barkley, obviously. I think he's going to bang the drum that I want to throw the ball. I want to make a flashy play. I want to be on SportsCenter's top 10. And I think he's going to throw an interception.
I keep saying, man, I hope in that game, Odell Beckham has 1 catch for -1 yards and a fumble, and he throws 2 picks. That's what I hope happens.
Throws 2 picks. All right. Yeah. I thought I was going on a bold take saying he's throwing 1. There's no way they're not going to run something cute with him. He's not going to be trying to catch every ball with 1 hand, which was another thing that drove me crazy about him. Yeah. Ever since he made that one-handed catch, that was it. I'm catching everything with 1 hand. That's
the worst thing that ever happened to Odell Beckham.
Yeah.
Making that, because it made him a god in his eyes, and I think that's the worst thing that ever happened to him.
Even the game winner he caught against Detroit, if I remember, he caught a one-hander and kind of ran it in. He almost dropped that ball that he could have easily caught with 2. He kind of bailed himself out by catching it, but that was eventually driving me nuts because he wants those Instagram followers.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. I think he got fame way too quickly. Let's put it that way.
A lot of fame too.
Yeah, 100%. You have the Giants beating you guys. Well, I hope so. I think the Giants could win that game too against the Browns. I think they got a good chance.
The Hub is in the chat. Check him out. He's got another great YouTube channel. I was on there once. He's a great guy. Living in Queens.
Yeah, the Hub's awesome.
I think he just did. He does a weekly show with Kid Blue, the Young Kids Podcast. Another great channel if you haven't seen him.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love the Hub. He's a great guy.
I miss the Entertainers call-in shows. I love your channel. I like to watch all of them. I thought the call-in shows were a little rough because I think not your fault, but the callers would just keep asking the same questions.
Well, that's the thing. That's why I stopped it. That's why I stopped it.
Yeah, it would be like, oh, what's the Giants record? Okay, next call. What do you think the Giants record's going to be? And it was like, okay, guys, are you watching the show or not?
Yeah, you get a lot of people that just want to call in to talk and they don't really have a topic to talk about.
Hey, what's up, Chris?
Yeah. But I'm probably going to do a video. I'm having the subscribers on now. I'm probably going to do that where I have, guys come on, talk for 5 or 6 minutes, and we'll see how that goes in season when there's a lot to talk about, because I don't want to do it out of season because then you're going to get the same thing. So I want to do that. But, yeah, the call-in show, like you said, it became way too redundant, and it was the same exact question over and over and over again.
AJ Marshall's got a question. Giants D has to face Lamar Jackson this year. What is the strategy? What I think, which always is blowing my mind that no one's ever went back to it, if you look at the Chargers, when they played them in the playoffs, their defense coordinator said, hey, you know what? We're going to throw 9 defensive backs out there. Lamar's going to have to beat us with his arm. And they dominated him in that first half. They kind of caught up with him a little bit in the second half, but I always thought it was so strange that no other team has ever shown him that look again. Obviously, he's probably gotten better as a passer. He's been in the league for a while. But if something's working, why did we go away from it? I hope that we show some funky defense like that. We get creative with it. But you can't just keep throwing out the same thing that he sees every week because he's eating it up.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be tough. It's tough to guard Lamar Jackson. It is. He might be the hardest quarterback right now to defend against because of his athletic ability. My best answer to you is pray. But I mean, my strategy going in would be to try to spy him and force him to throw the ball, like you said. You can't guard him when he's on the run. His weakness is throwing the football. So I would try to spy him and try to keep him in that pocket and make sure that he has to throw the football.
I think you might have to put two spies on him. One guy who just takes the left side of the field, one guy takes the right side of the field. Because if you just put, hey, Conley, catch up, good luck. I mean, that's exactly what you're telling him.
Yeah, you're dead. You're absolutely dead. Maybe you have a lot of 5-6 DB sets, so you have more speed on the field against the Ravens, stuff like that. It's not going to be easy. Let's put
also,
it
another thing is we play them really late in the season. Someone might have figured it out by then. Someone might say this is how you beat them, and then we kind of just copycat them. But hopefully that's the case by then.
Yeah, we play in week 16, so I'm hoping that the Ravens are 14-1 or 13-1, so they're not playing for an undefeated season, and they've got their seed locked up, and they're like, take a couple of weeks off. That's what I hope.
I think the only thing that's going to be tough about that is we saw how poor that did for them last year. I don't think that they're going to want to do that again.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's wishful thinking.
But hopefully this could be like that Patriots game from the infamous 07 Patriots game. We're kind of fighting for a playoff spot, and we kind of put our best shot up against a real good team. Maybe win, maybe we don't. But then go, we're not that far. We can play with the big dogs, and hopefully it leads to a couple more wins at the end of the season. We sneak in.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I expect this year. I don't expect to make the playoffs, but I kind of expect us, even though we play a tough schedule, I think we're going to play some good teams tougher than people think. I think we'll stick around with the 49ers. I think I don't think we're going to get blown out much. Even when we lose, I think we'll play fairly competitive in most of these games.
What do you guys think about Buffalo? I know you're a big Josh Allen fan. I am not. I feel like Sean McDermott's had him for a couple of years. He kind of like protects him a little bit. I understand that the guy could throw the ball over a mountain. He's more athletic than people really give him credit for. But I don't know. There's just something about him that just doesn't pop with me. I think Stephon Diggs was probably the perfect receiver for him to get. I think he's in a great scenario. But if they don't win the division this year, then you're going to really get some questions about Josh Allen. This is a big season for him.
Yeah, I mean, Buffalo is a team I like. I like Buffalo as a team. I love their defense. They might have the best defense in the sport. They added 2 pass rushers, which was really their only weakness with Mario Addison, and they drafted, I think, A.J. Epinesa. But they already had the best defense in the league, if not top 2 or 3. So their defense is stacked. They also added a running back, which I think was, should only help the defense. Stephon Diggs is a huge pickup. And they've kind of got all 3 different types of receivers now. They got a burner, they've got the slot guy, and they've got Diggs who could kind of do everything. So, and they've improved the offensive line the last few years. So there's no excuses for Josh Allen. Josh Allen last year got a lot better over the course of the season. Didn't play well in that playoff game. Only threw 2 picks over his last 12 games. So I do think Josh Allen definitely matured last year. In my opinion, I know his completion percentage still wasn't good. I think it was like 58, 59%. But if you look at the statistics, he checked it down far fewer than any other quarterback in the sport last year. I think he needs to add that to his repertoire to try to improve that completion percentage, take those easy yards when they're there. And he may not last long term because he does, like Lamar Jackson, he does take a lot of unnecessary shots. But yeah, I actually expect big things from Josh Allen this year. I think he's going to be in the top 5 or 6 for MVP this year. I think he's going to I think if there was a quarterback this year that I think is going to break out, and I'm not saying Lamar Jackson, Pat Mahomes type breakout, but a guy that's kind of like could go either way and could break onto the scene to be in the MVP discussion, I'm going with him. I think he's going to have a good year. Him and Stafford, those are the 2 quarterbacks who some people may not know what they're going to do this year. I think both those guys are guys that I think are going to have strong years.
I think the tough thing with Josh Allen is, like, if you have a great singing voice, it's hard not to sing in the shower. He's got a rocket arm. He wants to show that thing off. And I think, I don't know, I'm not saying he doesn't practice the short passes. I mean, it throws as much. But when the coach calls him, it's like, Coach, let me air this thing out, man. I could beat him deep. And I think that's just something that he's going to have to learn. And if he does, he definitely has all the talent. But there's just something about him when I watch him with the eye test, he just doesn't pop for me.
Yeah, no, that's definitely fair. I mean, there's definitely a lot of negatives to his game. Like you said, I think all these third-year quarterbacks, this is a crucial year for all of them. Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield. I think all three of those guys are under a lot of pressure this year to really take a big step forward this year. You want to see progression from all of them this year, and if you don't, you start the question of whether or not they're going to be on that second contract with the football team.
Yeah, and obviously they'll pick up the fifth-year option on them, but you don't ever want to go into your quarterback in a contract year. Coaches and quarterbacks, they very rarely you see him play on a contract year. We'll obviously see it in Dallas this year, but if he's your guy, you put your arms around him early and you pay him often.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. He's one of the quarterbacks I'm really looking forward to this year to see if he takes that big step. For all three of those guys, actually. I know a lot of Giant fans love to hate Sam Darnold. I still think Sam Darnold's a pretty good quarterback. I just think the Jets have set him up for failure. They didn't improve that offensive line since he's been there. They haven't really given him a legitimate weapon, and they still really haven't. They've improved the offensive line, though. So I'm excited to see how he performs this year. If he takes a big step forward, all three of those guys. But I still believe in Darnold, too. I still think Darnold could be a pretty good quarterback as well.
I do, too. He's still younger than Joe Burrow. His number one receiver is Robbie Anderson. All right, let's kick him out of town. They sent him a ton of money on C.J. Mosley. He gets hurt. They spent a ton of money on Le'Veon Bell. He looks like a shell of himself. He needs a real big bounce back here. The only guy that they've drafted who actually looks like he's talented is Jamal Adams, and they're going, we can't pay him. He's too much. You're going to have to put some people around this guy if you want him to succeed, especially being that they were in the same draft. They were drafted pretty close to each other. They're always going to be like how Daniel Jones and Haskins are kind of associated together. Sam Darnold and Josh Allen are going to be associated together. So it's a make-or-break deal. Whoever wins that division this year, the other guy's going to look like a chump. Yeah,
and it's for Darnold, it's unfortunate because you look at what the Giants did for Daniel Jones year two. That's what the Jets should have done. The Jets had the ability to really beef up that offensive line last year, and they didn't do it. They did it this year, but that should have been fixed last year, and they didn't do it. So they have not helped out their quarterback at all. Not to mention they've gone through already two offensive coordinators in his first 2 years in the league. And we have two with Daniel Jones, so hopefully that doesn't affect him. But and the weapons, he doesn't have weapons. So I think Darnold's really been set up for failure. And it really makes you think would the same thing have happened with the New York Giants? Because if you take Sam Darnold, you don't draft Saquon Barkley. So it could have been a completely different situation for the New York Giants. It could have been a similar situation, rather, with the Giants had they taken Darnold like the Jets did.
And also another thing we were talking about, like, he probably won't get another chance with another team if he has another off year or another off 2 years. He's just going to be a career backup, something that goes to the wayside. And this is something the Jets just really can't afford. When you're up at the top of the draft, they traded up for him. They need to surround the team for him to succeed. And it looks like they're kind of going, all right, Sam, the offense is on you, and good luck.
I'm going to tell you what, man. This is a bold prediction. I think Sam Darnold is going to win a Super Bowl in his career. I don't think it's going to be with the Jets. I think the Jets end up letting him go, and he wins it somewhere. I think Darnold's still a very talented quarterback. I just think the Jets don't know what the hell they're doing.
Yes, that's for sure. Absolutely.
I think they've got a good quarterback. I just don't think they're setting it up for success. And I don't know, man. I still like Darnold, though. I do.
I do too. I thought he was great at USC. When I was watching the draft, whatever year that was, and when Baker went number one, my jaw went to the floor. I thought, these guys are nuts. They actually went with it. And I was looking for Sam Darnold New York Giants jerseys. I'm like, we're taking Darnold. This guy's great. There's no way we're going to go with Barkley. I don't care what the rumors say. And then when they went with Barkley, that whole offseason, I was like, I can't believe we took a running back. What are we doing, man? We're nuts. And then week one against Jacksonville, I was like, okay, this is why we went with him. This guy is all that. All right, good thing we went with him.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love Barkley, and I wanted if I'm being honest, I wanted the Giants to trade down on draft night. And it was nothing to do with Darnold. Like I said, I like Darnold. I just thought the Giants weren't ready to support a quarterback. I didn't think they were anywhere near ready to support a quarterback. They still had so many holes on that offensive line. They didn't have any real weapons outside of Odell Beckham. So I was kind of the mindset we still have Eli. We've decided we're going to keep him. Let's fill in the holes for the guy that we're going to draft in the following draft. So I was happy that they didn't take a quarterback. Had nothing to do with Darnold, though. But I would have preferred to trade down, even though I love Saquon Barkley.
The sports critic. It's so goddamn hot. Yes, it is, man. I'm gonna drink some more water in this mess.
Milk was a bad choice. Love that movie.
Oh, it's a great movie.
Yeah.
At my job, we had Joe Dirt on the other day. That's another great movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Some of those like silly comedies, they don't really age all that well, but if it's actually really good, it stays.
Oh, you can't. Anchorman's incredible. It's incredible.
What's your favorite football movie?
Ooh, I gotta go with Rudy.
I like The Replacements.
Replacements is definitely a fun movie.
That's
for
another
sure.
great movie, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I love The Replacements, but yeah, I gotta go. Rudy's a classic.
The Replacements are the only time where I'm cheering for Washington football. Let's just say that.
Keanu Reeves. I love Keanu Reeves.
Let's see if I got it. 4 OC since Baker Mayfield has been drafted. Obviously, that is not going to help Baker Mayfield, but also I think that's maybe kind of Cleveland trying to cover up the fact that they think they may have made a mistake, and they're going to be like, we got to find someone who can work with this guy, or else we're all going to lose our jobs. I think he's just a little too cocky to be on a franchise that never wins, to think he's all that. The guy's shaving like during press conferences, basically. I think you can be a diva or a bit of all that if you're playing any other position but quarterback. But if your quarterback's not a grown-up and he's not taking it serious, the rest of the team's not going to follow.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the 4 offensive coordinators with the Browns has to do with him. I mean, he came out and he was bashing Jackson. They have to find a coach that's willing to work with him. So yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I was a Mayfield fan, actually. I wanted to root for the guy. I liked his bravado and stuff like that coming out. Then when he said what he said about the Giants, I was I'm done with this guy. But I definitely question about whether or not he could be a franchise quarterback in the NFL. And if he doesn't do it this year, like I said, Brown should move on. You can't have a better situation.
Yeah, especially when you're going to see Lamar Jackson lighten the league up, who got drafted in the same position, and it's just going to be a really tough look for him. He's going to have to get these guys to buy in with him. And especially if Odell does what Odell does, doesn't have that hot start, and he keeps saying, I thought I had it bad with Eli. I'm sorry, guys. This guy stinks. And I think that'll be his deathbed.
Well, that's what's so great to me is this guy complained about Eli his whole career, whether it was direct or not. And he leaves Eli for Mayfield, who was the first overall pick the year before, and he has 4 touchdowns. And it's just funny. It's just funny to me how much he bashed Eli Manning.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, if he doesn't keep producing, or if he has these 4 touchdowns, it's going to get muted. Like you're not going to have these Sports Center interviews. People aren't going to care about you. The league will move on without you very quickly. I think it's going to be a little bit of a make or break season for him. I know he's already got the money and he's going to be in the NFL for a little bit more while. But if he wants to be known as one of these top guys or one of the more famous players, this is a huge year for him, and he's going to be connected to Mayfield.
Oh yeah, no, if he wants to get his career back on a Hall of Fame trajectory, he's got to have a good year this year.
Absolutely. See, another story that came out this week, Saquon Barkley signs a Nike deal worth $20-30 million. Maybe it's not that bad to be a New York Giant, guys.
Yeah, it helps when you play in New York. when it comes to those
2 guys with the highest shoe deals in the NFL, it ain't Patrick Mahomes. It's Odell and it's Saquon.
There you go. I did not know that. So, I mean, yeah, obviously playing in a big market is definitely going to help you, especially when you're a talent like Saquon Barkley. And hopefully, Saquon Barkley doesn't kill the Giants when it comes to the contract because he's making money like that off the field. I definitely want him to get paid what he feels is fair, but hopefully he doesn't, hold us over a barrel like Dak Prescott's doing with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, also in the interview after he said, he's like, I'm humble, I'm football first, says all the right things. And then he says, well, I don't know how long I'll play football, maybe 31. And I'm like, 31? We need you longer than that, man. We drafted you down, man. Don't say that.
You know what? You can't blame him, though, at that running back position.
Exactly.
The beatings that they take. But, we'll see. The thing is this. If he has the ability to go down as the greatest ever, I think he's going to try to play as long as he can. So
I think Adrian Peterson's kind of also rewritten the script on that. I know Frank Gore's still in the league, but I never saw Frank Gore as the best running back in the NFL ever, like the way I saw Adrian Peterson. And Peterson still, I mean, he's not what he was, but at least he's still going strong.
Yeah, Peterson is just a freak, just like Barkley. I mean, both those guys, for their size, to be able to move the way that they do and have the frame that they have, if there's anybody that could do what Peterson did, it's Saquon Barkley. There's not many running backs that are built that way.
He's also kind of changed the way that you look at a knee injury. Usually it used to be a torn ACL. It's like, okay, he's going to be 80, 70% of himself for the rest of his career. He'll miss a year and a half. He said, man, give me 3 months in a weight bench. I got this. And then runs for 2,000 yards. He's kind of really changed the mold of what you should look like after an injury.
Yeah, listen, man, I've said it time and time. I think Barkley's going to have an MVP type season this year. I just don't think the Giants are going to win enough games, but I think Barkley's going to lead the league in scrimmage yards. I think he's going to have a monster year. I can't wait to see him play this year.
Also, now that I see what they're doing in Carolina, I love Christian McCaffrey, but I'm so happy we don't have Matt Rule. I thought his press conference was cheesy. He goes all defense. They don't address linebacker after they lose Luke Kuechly. I just think I'm so happy to not see him. LD99. He's sitting right next to me. This is actually my roommate. If you like Valorant video game, not really my thing, but if you like it, go check him out.
Oh, all right. Good stuff. And what's the story behind the mask?
I got this in Mexico. I thought, like I've said this before, when you look up Giants YouTubers, there's not much diversity. It's kind of a lot of us just look a bunch of white guys sitting in basements talking about whatever. So I thought, man, this will make me stand out a little bit. Maybe it'll lead to some clicks.
There you go. You got to have something. He's got the mask.
Yeah, there we go. Nick Chubb could be another Jim Brown. No, absolutely not. Nick Chubb's great. I love him. You got to do your research on Jim Brown. That's disrespectful to Jim Brown.
Jim Brown's one of the 5 greatest players who ever lived.
Yeah, he was in the league 9 years and was basically the best player in the league for 8 of them or 9 of them, basically. And this is when running back was the position, not quarterback.
Fun fact about Jim Brown, I only know this because I'm from Long Island. He's from Long Island originally, and he was actually the greatest lacrosse player who's ever played. But obviously he was so talented in football, but he was such a great athlete. He was great at whatever he did.
Yeah, absolutely. He could have played. I mean, I never seen him play any sports or any rumors, but a guy that talented, he could have played wherever he wanted, whatever he wanted to do. If he was coming up now, he'd probably be a quarterback. They would want to put the ball in him from put the ball in his hands day one. But yeah, that's no offense to Nick Chubb, but no.
Yeah, Nick Chubb's really good. He's just not on that level. And I'm not trying to sound biased. If there's any running back that could be on that level or approach that level in the league right now, it's Barkley. And I'm not going to say is there or even close to there. But I just don't see that there's any other running backs in the league that are on that type of level.
Yeah, absolutely. They say Jabroni with the mask, Tana with the style. Gotta have a gimmick somewhere. Were you able to finally get a haircut? Are barbershops open there?
I did get a haircut, actually.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
I haven't got one in a while, probably about a month now, but I got one. Yeah, I'm trying to limit the haircuts, but
exactly. I don't go until I absolutely have to nowadays because I people understand. Don't take unnecessary risks for a cut.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I'm gonna probably go every couple of months. So I normally go every 2 or 3 weeks, but
yeah, I used to go every 2 wees, but now it's until it gets desperate.
Yeah, exactly. Once my hair looks like I'm like a Jesus, so that's when I go and get it cut.
I can see Barkley being a little bit more like a Barry Sanders. Hopefully, plays a little bit more years than Barry Sanders did. But their running styles and the way they play are definitely a lot more similar. I just can't compare anyone to Jim Brown.
Yeah, no, I agree. Barkley reminds me of Barry Sanders the way he plays. Not to say that they're equal. And then I see he also asked who's the most biased fan base in the NFL. Eagles for me.
Oh yeah, every player we draft is a Hall of Famer. Every Hall of Famer is available is going to be an Eagle. Yeah. I live in Eagles County. That's why I think that's also another reason why they're my least favorite team. I have to live with them basically. Everyone I work with is an Eagles fan. When I went to school, everyone I went to school with was an Eagles fan, and they're obnoxious. No other way to put it.
Yeah, and they think they're going to get every free agent. You're already starting to hear that Miles Sanders is as good as Saquon Barkley. So
yeah, come on. The guy couldn't even. it's
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah.
Also, another thing is there's not many stadiums that need a prison inside the basement.
Yeah. Their fans also eat horse shit after they win Super Bowl. So
Yeah, I saw one of them punched a cop who was or a horse who was a cop. Like, that's not the way to celebrate. Just I don't know if anyone knows that yet, but yeah, don't go out punching police officers.
Yeah, not a good idea. Not a good idea.
But I honestly live so close to Philly, and when it was kind of coming to where you kind of saw that they were going to win it at the end, I was thinking about going to Philly just to see it because I imagine it would be so nuts. But I was like, I couldn't help myself by wearing a Giants jersey, and I don't want to cause that. There's no need for that.
You couldn't pay me to go to the link. Like,
yeah, it's just not worth it.
You know what? Maybe one day, if I get big enough on YouTube, maybe then we organize a huge gathering, and we all go to the link at once. Maybe then I'd feel all right with it, but not with me, with like a couple of groups of friends. But if I ever went there with a couple hundred of Giant fans and we made it a road trip, maybe then, but not with 3 or 4 people.
It's just not worth it. Like and it's not even like if I would go to a game, I would probably take my fiance and like if you want to shit on me or say whatever, I'll suck with it. But then if you say something to her, like now you're causing something else, and it would be an absolute mess, and it's just not worth it. But yeah. I do have to give him that you don't even want to go to an Eagles game.
Yeah, no, I don't. First up, we never beat them.
Yeah, so that's not another reason when they were greasing the poles like the week before because they were worried that they were going to be climbing up on the street lights and all that. So like the whole week of the Super Bowl, the police were out greasing the poles and like basically bolting everything to the ground.
Wow.
Yeah. And the city of Philly, you have a statue of a made-up boxer from a movie, but Joe Frazier doesn't get a statue.
That's funny that you say that. I said that in my Rocky movie review. I say the same thing.
The dumbest city ever. You guys know it's a movie, right?
Yeah, I'm like, and I say like when you come to New York, you don't see the Ghostbusters. You don't see statues of famous New York movie characters. And like you said, you have one of the most infamous boxers of all time. Have a statue of him instead of a fake movie character.
Yeah, Bernard. I mean, it's a great boxing city. It's not even like it's the middle of nowhere. It's known for their boxers, but yet you pick a made-up character. It's just kind of strange. Yeah, and you got all the history there too. You have a statue of like one of those famous politicians, like Rocky. Yeah. Rocky's the best you can come up with? That doesn't quite make sense. It's not even like it's near the stadiums. It's in the middle of the city. Like if you didn't... Well, it's by where you ran up the steps, right? Yeah, which is like kind of by City Hall. Like if you didn't know Rocky was a movie and you were walking around Philadelphia and you're not a big sports guy, you would think he's a real guy. Of course. Like, I don't know. That always bugged me. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I'm with you on that one. Doesn't make a lot of sense. He is Nick Cage. You're Nick Cage, apparently. I didn't know if you knew this, but
yeah, a lot of people say I look like Nick Cage. I've been told that. I get that, and I get Matt Harvey when I'm wearing my Mets gear. I actually had a kid ask me to autograph a baseball one time at Mike Piazza's Hall of Fame induction ceremony because he thought I was Matt Harvey. Oh wow, that was you. He really fell for it. Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to go to training camp this year in the full Jabroni outfit, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Yeah, I plan on going to training camp this year too. Obviously, will not happen, but next year that's something I'm definitely going to do. Want to get some meetups at bars and stuff like that, but it's just not in the cards this year. It's just not worth it. Ideally, like because my new thing is I want to go to one away game a year. Is we wanted to go to opening day this year and then go to Chicago for week 2, but I'm not getting on a plane. No, screw. And they're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna let fans in anyway. And also, one thing that I'm worried about is, let's say they only allow 10 or 20% capacity. Those tickets are not going to be cheap. Yeah, and here's the thing: if they're allowing 10 or 20% capacity, there's a reason for it. Why go? Exactly. At first, also another thing is football is amazing to watch at home. It's built for TV. Right. Like baseball is a great game to go to. Hockey is way better in person. Basketball kind of can go either way, but football is an amazing TV product. Like there's no I don't feel that there's as much of an incentive to go to a football game than there is other sports, especially because so many plays are so close. You want to see, they show the highlights 600 times. Did he catch it? Was his foot in bounds?
If a guy is hurt, you get the updates with the announcers. It's just such a great TV product. It's not worth it.
Yeah, and it kind of, and not, I mean, I love going to football games. Don't get me wrong, but I would never have season tickets because it kind of ruins your Sunday. Because, yeah, it's great to go to the game, but then I'm a huge football fan. I like to be able to sit back, watch the 4 o'clock, watch the 8 o'clock. When you go to the Jersey, you ain't getting home till 7, 8 o'clock. So you're missing the whole 4 o'clock slate. And by the time you get home, you're tired. You want to just go to bed. So that's the other thing. It kind of ruins the Sunday experience if you go to a game.
I think going to 1 or 2 games this season is perfect.
I think that's what it is. I like to go to 1, maybe 2 games a year. I think you hit it on the head.
I don't know what that guy LPG does, man, but I can't imagine how much money he spends on tickets a year. Oh God, he's like our mascot. Yeah, he's on the field half the time. I'm like, where do you get those tickets? I don't know why people value superstar players more back in the day, and now you could argue the game was easier back in the day as it is now. I think the game's tough in every era. You're playing against the guys in your era. I don't think that like Jim Brown had it easy in the 60s. I don't think that if he started today, he would dominate that way. You get viewed against the guys in your era, and if you're a superstar back then, you should be treated as one.
I think that's the only way to do it because games change, whether it's basketball, baseball, football, all the major sports, they all change over time. So I don't think it's fair to compare Babe Ruth to Mike Trout. I don't think it's fair to compare Larry Bird to LeBron James. It's just different eras. It's different times. The game was played differently. You look at the NBA now, the European influence has completely changed the sport. There's no defense. They chuck up 53s a game. And it's the same thing with baseball. It's a completely different sport than the way it used to be. And football as well. Like quarterbacks didn't throw 50 times a game back in 1970. So you can't really compare a player that played in the 70s to a player that played today. You can only compare players to their eras.
It's not like Tom Brady would have thrown for 600 touchdowns and won 6 Super Bowls in the 50s.
Yeah.
It was a running league then. So, I mean, you can't have it one way and not the other. You can only be ruled against the guys in your era. I don't guys are getting bigger, faster, stronger, and the games are getting more involved or whatever, but that's not the guy's fault who played in the 70s.
Yeah, and I think players would adjust. I think these people that were great in the 70s, they would adjust to this era. Like they would work out like these guys do nowadays. It just so happens in their period, players didn't work out like that because they didn't have to.
Yeah.
You look at a guy like Michael Jordan, for example. People say in this era he wouldn't be near as good because of his 3-point shot. You're telling me a guy with Michael Jordan's work ethic, had he known the game is played the way it is today, wouldn't work to perfect his 3-point shot? So it's just like apples and oranges to me. If Jordan played in this era, he'd be shooting 42% from 3. He'd be working on that. That's what made him a great player. He had that work ethic to be great at what he did.
Yeah, absolutely. Sports have changed as a whole. That's it. You guys are – every generation is going to have their own kind of guy. It's just basically hit the nail on the head, man. Like, you can only be really ruled against the guys in Europe. I don't see Patrick Mahomes not working in the 80s but working now, or Dan Marino working then but not working now. If you're a supreme athlete and you work hard and you put it all out there, like you're going to see results. Yeah,
to me that's the key. It's having great talent and pairing it with a great work ethic. And not everybody has it. Some people have one, they don't have the other. But that's what makes the all-time greats. Jerry Rice, Tom Brady, those guys had unbelievable work ethic. So that's what makes the all-time greats. And I think if you have that, you'd be great in any era. You would make it work, regardless of the era you played in.
Do you have any surprising cuts that you could expect to see in camp? Someone to get cut that would surprise some other people? It's kind of tough because there's not a lot of great players. It's not like we're getting rid of anyone who's all that great.
And it's a shortened offseason, right? So you're only going to have 2 preseason games. I don't see a lot of these guys that are undrafted free agents making the team because they're not going to have enough time to prove themselves.
Absolutely.
So I don't think there'll be many surprise cuts. If I had to pick, and I would have said Corey Ballantyne, but now with the DeAndre Baker situation, I don't think he's going to be cut. So I really I can't think of many. I'd be surprised if there was a big name that's cut. Plus, there's an expanded roster this year, so I don't think there's going to be many cuts that like are eye popping for the New York Giants.
How did I become a Yankee fan, Jabroni? If Bob Clausen is still in the chat, he can answer this. He named me that. My name is Robert Yankee Clausen. So I never really got a choice. I'm happy to be a Yankees fan.
You should be. You should be.
Yeah, it helps. Also, once when I was real young, I was a Knicks fan because he watches the Knicks, so that's the team I started following. And at one point, he was trying to get me to be a Nets fan. He brought me a Jason Kidd jersey. He brought me a Kenyon Martin. He was like, I know you like my teams. We watched the games together. But I'm just telling you, this is one bandwagon you do not want to jump on. He tried to get me to like the Knicks, and I wished I would have listened to him because they look like they're going to be title contenders next year. But, yeah, that's how I became a Yankees fan.
Yeah, your dad did a good job raising you. I'm unfortunately a Mets fan, so if I go back in time, I probably would have changed teams, but I got to ride with my team now.
One time when I was a kid, I don't even remember this. I was too young, but apparently when I was like 3 or 4 years old, my dad was like, hey, do you want to be a football player for Halloween? I'm like, yeah, of course, let's do it. We go to the Halloween store, we go to the football section, and he's like, okay, he picks up the Giants one. And I'm like, I want the star. The star helmet looks cool. I want to be a cowboy. And he's like, nope, not doing it. I don't care. And he bought the Giants one, and I apparently cried the whole ride home. I want the star. And he goes, I don't care. I'm not paying for it. Get a job or something. He was like, nope, I'm not dressing you in Dallas gear. And I appreciate for that to this day that there's no photos of me in a Dallas.
Who knows? Maybe if he allowed you to do that, you'd be a Cowboy fan.
Exactly, and I'm happy it didn't go that way.
Yeah. And Sports Expert says surprise cut BJ Hill. No chance.
No.
Now one guy. Okay, I'll give you a surprise cut because we're deep at that position. I'm not anticipating it. RJ McIntosh. Maybe that's possible. If Austin Johnson plays well, they brought him in who plays the D tackle as well. Maybe a player like that, but not BJ Hill.
Unfortunately, because I really like him and I have high hopes and I hope not, I could see Conley getting cut. Maybe he doesn't come back as the same player with the knee injury. We actually have depth at linebacker this year. I would like to see him on the team, but if he got cut, it's not like something I see a lot of people batting an eye at.
Yeah, because of the injury. If he's not fully recovered, I agree. If he's recovered, he's not getting cut. But if he's not fully recovered, I agree. He could be cut.
And he's the 5th round pick. It's not like we have a whole lot invested into him. But I hope he comes back. I hope he plays the way he did last year. But that's a guy I can see not being on the team next year.
Yeah. How about Coleman? He's coming back from an injury also. So
I think the thing that's going to really help him is he was really good at kick and punt returns.
No, he was great.
I think that's just going to be basically his job there. I know a lot of people want to see Javon League taking back kicks or Jabril Peppers because he did it great in college, but I think Conley has that job kind of written out.
Yeah, no, I don't think he's going to get cut. I'm just trying to think.
I can see it, yeah, because we do have some wide receivers. I mean, I don't see he's going to get many offensive snaps. I see he has one niche job and a job that can be filled by a couple of guys.
Yeah, so, I mean, we'll see. But like I said, I don't expect many surprise cuts. I'd be surprised.
Yeah, I think, like you were saying, too, it's going to be really hard for guys like Benjamin Victor and these guys to make the roster when they're not going to have much of an opportunity to show these guys what they got. Yeah,
because you think if we play 2 preseason games, which we may not even, right? It's guaranteed that at the most we're going to play is 2. Those games got to be used predominantly for the starters. They got to be getting in shape for the season. So I just don't see a lot of opportunity for guys like that. And I'm sure one of them will make it because we could probably use another wide receiver, but I don't see a lot of these undrafted guys making the team.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on David Stills? Does he have a season on our practice squad? I think it's going to be tough to stay on the practice squad because I think practice squad guys, you kind of just take a flyer on and see if they hit. I do like David Stills. I like that he used to be a quarterback. Obviously, they have some sort of faith with him because they didn't get rid of him last year and he didn't even see the field. But how do you feel about David Stills? I think hopefully he can be like that Wes Welker, Amendola, Ben Hogan type of guy who just finds himself to be open without being immensely talented.
Yeah, I like Stills. I of the undrafted guys, I think he may have the best opportunity to make the team. And I know nobody's talking about him because he's not an undrafted free agent this year. Everybody's on the guys, the Benjamin Victors, the Derek Dillons. This guy had 33 touchdowns in his last 2 years at West Virginia. He's 6'4". I think he could be a solid red zone target. I think he could make the team, actually, Marjorie. I like Stills. I think he's a guy to keep an eye on. You look at Victor Cruz. He's a guy that took 2 years on the practice squad. So maybe he gets that opportunity. I like Stills. I hope he makes the team. I'm a fan of Stills.
Also, when I was at the Tampa game, this is a little bit random, but I'm almost positive I was sitting right by Benny Fowler's family because there was two of them, one of them with a white Benny Fowler jersey, the other one with a blue Benny Fowler jersey. And the first thing I thought was, who buys a Benny Fowler jersey?
It's got to be his family.
And every time he touched the ball, they were losing it. Oh, all right. And I was thinking just like, they got to know him somehow. I don't know where he's from. I don't know if he's from the Tampa area at all, but it just stuck out like a sore thumb because you don't see Benny Fowler jerseys.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that is always just good enough to make the team, but he never does anything.
He reminds me of King, the receiver we had. Yeah. A burner. He'll have a game where he says a touchdown. You think, okay, maybe this guy. And then like 4 or 5 weeks, you don't even see him.
Yeah, he's like one of those guys that's just good enough to make an NFL roster, but he never does anything after that.
Yeah,
that's what he is.
What is the favorite New York Giants game you've ever went to?
It was actually a loss. Most of the games that I go to are losses. I think I've probably been to at least 15 Giant games. Maybe they've won 3. Yeah, I have bad luck. But it was the Packers-Giants game, the year they won the Super Bowl, regular season. They lost 38-35. But it was actually a game that kind of propelled them to go on a run in the playoffs. It was kind of like that Patriots loss. The Packers won 15-1 that year. And the Giants were the team that gave them their at the time, I think the Packers were like 12-0. And the Giants lost an hour game in which they should have won. But it was a great game.
I actually kind of had the opposite luck for a while, but because my parents had season tickets for a while, they bought them off of someone. They didn't have all the games, but they used to go to a good amount every year. And my mom would be like, okay, you can go to the last game of the season every year. It's too cold. If you want to sit through it, go through it. And that was it. I went to the coldest game every year. I didn't care. I just want to go to the game. And they won. Oh, yeah, Bob Clausen went to the 1990 Super Bowl, a bit of a flex. I was about 4 months old, and he left me in New Jersey, but we won't talk about that. But he used to take me to the game every year, and we won every time. And we stunk in the 90s. It was, like, surprising that they won every time I was there. And my dad's like, okay, he's the good luck charm. The game where I really started buying into it was in 98. They beat the undefeated Broncos.
Yeah, Callaway.
And my dad's like, oh, you're it. If the Giants are playing a big game, you got to come. And then the next year, they play the Vikings. And the Vikings were on fire. I think this is maybe after the 98 season. So their offense is humming. And my dad's hyping me up through the pregame during tail. He goes, oh, we're going to win. I got my kid here. Bobby's going to be the good luck charm. And we get destroyed. We're losing like 35-0 at half. And I felt like I let the team down. I let everybody down. I'm like, I'm supposed to be the good luck charm. And my dad was like, if you're going to watch a lot of Giants football games, like, get ready. They don't win a lot. Like, it's okay. It's okay. And I just remember being so sad. And, like, I let everyone down. I let my dad down, man. I was supposed to be the reason. And then I started watching the games a little more. And I was like, oh, no, we just stink. Like, I better get used to this.
Well, 2000, they were good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, overall, you're right. I think a lot of people, when they think about the New York Giants, they just assume, oh, well, you guys have it easy. No. Giants have gone through a lot of losing since I've been watching the team, and they're definitely an up and down franchise. There's no doubt about it. They're not nearly as good as some people make them out to be.
Benny Fowler is from Michigan. I don't know if his family was visiting or whatever, or if they're just Benny Fowler fans. But it was just surprising to see 2 Benny Fowler jerseys next to each other.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. And he says, it seems like so many more Giants fans have Deion Lewis and value Javon Leake more than him. I don't know why. Well, it's because here's the thing, man. People love the rookies. People are always going to favor the rookies, and they're going to overhype the rookies. Now, hopefully, Javon Leake's the real deal, but that's why. That's why fans are siding with guys like Javon Leake over Deion Lewis.
If Javon Leake was all that in a bag of chips, he would have been drafted. Lewis has been in the league. You imagine he's going to learn the playbook much faster. He's won a Super Bowl. I mean, that's why guys are excited about him. I wasn't too crazy about the signing. I would have much rather to have like that thunder and lightning, Saquon be your scat back and then bring in a power back. But he has a connection to Joe Judge through New England. And I mean, I didn't hate it. It's not like we gave him a ton of money. It's got to be better than the Stewart pick that we made.
Oh, Stewart. Yeah.
Gallman drives me nuts. He's only hurt when Saquon's hurt. He's healthy and he's ready to go. And then the second the actual running back gets hurt, then he's hurt.
I like Lewis though. I think Lewis. I mean, it's only a 1 year deal. He's 31. He's a guy that could come in and give you valuable reps. I like Lewis, and he's here for a reason. Like you just said, Joe Judge. So Joe Judge must see something in him, and I'm going to trust Joe Judge. So, and we got him for like $1.5 million. There's nothing wrong with the Deion Lewis pickup. I like the Deion Lewis pickup.
I think the idea of having a guy in the locker room who can really like push your message and be like, "Hey guys, we should really believe in him." That's worth $1.5 million.
Yeah, they didn't pay him anything. So, and I think it'll be a bit of a platoon behind Barkley. Of course, Barkley's going to get the bulk, but Gallman will probably get a few carries here and there. I think that they'll use Leak maybe a little bit if he makes the team, and I think Lewis will be the main backup.
12.5 sacks for Jimenez. No, I hope so. I would love that. But I think a guy who doesn't even have 12 career sacks to get him to all this year in a system where you're going to see a lot of different players coming in and out of the field, I think that's just way too high of a number. He gets 7 sacks, I'll be ecstatic.
Yeah, I just think the Giants are going to have that team philosophy. They're not going to – you look at the Patriots last year. Jamie Collins led the team in sacks with 7.5. I just, like you said, I think, especially if they bring back Marcus Golden, I just think that they're gonna be subbing guys in and out with different packages. There may be some packages where there's no edge rushers out on the field. Like they are gonna mix and match. They're gonna have completely different packages each play depending on the team that they're playing. I don't think players are gonna get enough snaps to have 12, 13 sacks. I just don't. Absolutely. And I actually like Lorenzo Carter.
Yeah, especially. I like Lorenzo Carter. I have more faith in him than I do with Jimenez or BJ Hill. Out of that draft class, I really think he's going to be the guy to spark, the guy to pop. Or at least I hope so. Him working with his former coach from Georgia, obviously he's going to have faith in him. He saw how well he can do with him. Yeah, that's why another reason why I don't mind the Leonard Williams trade. If you see the guy he's drafted in the 3rd round, Carter hasn't popped, Bale hasn't popped, BJ Hill hasn't popped. At least we got a guy who's going to be a bona fide starter on the team.
Yeah, I think Carter's going to have a big year. I really do. And he may not get it. May not get it in the sack department, but I think he's going to have a good year. They brought in his former linebacker coach from Georgia, and I think Graham, he is a very physically gifted player, and I think Graham's a very smart guy. He's going to find ways to put him in the best situation possible. I'm a fan of Carter. I think Carter's going to have a good year for the Giants. What are your guys' opinions on Will Hernandez, make or break year? I don't think if he struggled, or he'd have to be horrendous for me to give up on him. I expect him to improve than he did on his 2nd year. I hope he has his career year. I'd like to see him do better than he even did as a rookie. But like we were saying earlier, with an improved center and improved left tackle, it's going to be hard for him to regress. Yeah, I think he's going to have a better year. I like Hernandez. He was my breakout candidate last year. He let me down. I'm probably going to say he's my breakout candidate this year. I think Hernandez is going to have a good year for the Giants. We'll see. But I definitely think he's going to be a very solid guard in the NFL. So I'm not too worried about Hernandez. I think he's a good football player. He's a mean guy. He's a guy that I'm happy that we have. And I think we need one more big-time, maybe 2 more big-time impact offensive linemen for the future. But at least we're starting to build that offensive line to where it needs to be. Well, also another thing is offensive line, your body has to develop. We're talking about big, grown men. As a wide receiver, if you're fast, you're fast. Like, I was talking about how much I don't like the Broncos, but I think Jerry Jeudy, day one, he's going to be able to play in the NFL. Oh, yeah.
Quarterbacks, even now, the game's getting a little bit easier for them. Running back, I mean, out the womb, you can play in the NFL. I mean, hit hole, see hole, run. But offensive line, that's a position that you need to develop, grow into yourself. And this is going to be a big season for him, I hope. Yeah, no, the offensive line is one of the offensive line, cornerback, quarterback. I think those are the positions that take the longest to really see a return on your investment when you draft a player at those positions. Offensive linemen have to, you're dealing with the best of the best guys that are freak athletes off the edge. And the 2 easiest positions to transition to in the NFL are the edge rusher and the running back, I think. Because if you're a freak athlete, you're gonna get your sacks, you're gonna get your pressure on the quarterback. And I think it takes time for these offensive linemen to adjust to learning the game, learning the technique, to be able to block these guys day in and day out. So I do think it'll be an adjustment period for even Thomas. I think it takes some time. Yeah, absolutely. So that's why, and especially he's got a brutal start. He's got to go against TJ. Like we've talked about with TJ Watt, Khalil Mack, Aaron Donald. We can't give up on this kid in the first month. You guys can't be calling for Dave Gettleman's job in the first month because a 21-year-old can't block all pro defensive linemen. He's going to have an adjustment period as well. Obviously, I hope that doesn't happen and he's a stud from day one, but we're gonna have to be really patient with him, especially in the start of the season.
Yeah, I think you got to be patient with everyone. I mean, you got to be patient with Jones this year too. At least for the first 5-6 games, he's learning a new offense. He had no offseason to learn it, and they're playing, like you said, very tough defenses. And I hope the fan base gives him that leeway, at least for the first 4 or 5 weeks.
I think week 1 is so important. I definitely, if we can win that first game, really surprise some people, especially on Monday Night Football, I think it could just build some momentum going into the season. But if we lose that game, maybe some guys hang their heads and they go, all right, we're a stink franchise. We're not going anywhere. And I think week 1 is going to be so important, but we have to be very patient. The only thing that would really worry me week 1 is if like Jones had like 3 fumbles or something, and it just looks like something he didn't improve on at all. That would really scare me. But even if Thomas doesn't look like all that in the first month, we're really going to have to be patient with him. It's the position he plays, and it's just the way it's going to have to go.
Yeah, the mindset week 1 to me, the first couple of weeks, you've got to feature Barkley as much as you possibly can. Otherwise, they're going to tee off on Daniel Jones. So they've got to make a concerted effort to really get that ground game established against the Pittsburgh Steelers, as well as the 49ers with their pass rush and the Chicago Bears as well. They got to. I know a lot of people are going to want Jones to go out there and sling the rock. I don't want that. I want him throwing the ball 25 times at most. I want them to run the ball as much as possible early on this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially like a lot of people agree, and Dave Gettleman probably is himself. If he's the most talented back in football, then let's prove it. Let's show it. Let's showcase him. Jason Garrett has obviously had a lot of success in his running game, even when DeMarco Murray was there. Obviously, Zeke's very talented. So I expect with him and Colombo to open up some lanes for him. And if you can get 2,000 yards with the offensive line as a rookie, if we can get this thing to click, I mean, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, I mean, a good run game makes everybody's job easier. The quarterback, the defense, everything. Because you control the clock, it makes you less predictable on offense, and it sets you up for more efficient passing opportunities. So that's got to be the goal this year. Get Jones into those 3rd and 2 situations so it opens up the playbook, gives you an opportunity to be a lot more successful. You're not as predictable. Something that the Giants weren't able to do last year. They only averaged like 5.5 yards per drive last year, 5.5 plays per drive rather, which was like 27th in the league. You got to be able to establish that run to set everything else up. And I think that's how Jones will be successful. But he ain't going out there and slinging the rock 40 times and we're going to be winning football games. It's just not going to happen.
It's also tough to watch when it's 3rd and 3 and you're going, well, we have to pass the ball here because we can't just bulldoze guys for 2-3 yards. Hopefully, if we can switch that, it just makes the offense much more unpredictable. Expect to see some RPOs, but it's not like Jones is a mobile quarterback. He's got straight line speed. He's a little athletic, but that's not how we're going to really control this team. But it'll be nice to see the opportunity to be able to run or pass on certain downs where it kind of seemed like they were backed into a corner last year.
100%. What's up, CWC? Thanks for popping in. And AJ Marshall says, will Kyler Fackrell lead the team in sacks the way I think it's impossible to predict that. Like we were saying earlier, I just think you're going to see – I expect Golden to be back. We got now 3 days till he's going to be back for sure. And I just think you're going to see you're going to see so many substitutions. I don't think anybody's going to have more than 7 or 8 sacks. I think it's going to be a platoon. So – it's impossible to predict that, but I do think Fackrell could play well. I think there's a reason he came here, so I think he could play well.
I think a big thing that's going to help Fackrell, I think he's going to get most of the pass rushing opportunities because Patrick Graham knows him. That's the guy he's going to trust. But he's not going to have to always be the third down pass rusher. You can switch snaps between him and Golden, get whoever's fresher on the field for that. If I had to guess, I would guess Fackrell just because of the familiarity in the system. But it could be a handful of guys, and I wouldn't be surprised. I saw one person say like Jabril Peppers once. I was like, okay, that no. I hope it's not a safety.
I could see him getting 3 or 4. I could see those safeties getting 3 or 4 because I think they're going to blitz a lot, but I don't think they'll lead the team.
I hope our safety doesn't lead the team in sacks. I'll just say that.
No, I don't think so. But I could see them getting maybe 4 or 5 sacks.
Or McKinney, yeah.
Yeah, because I think they're going to be blitzing a lot off the edge. So I could see it, but not. I don't think that's the team leader. Team leader, I think you're looking at Zimenez, Carter, Fackrell, Golden. I think one of those four guys are going to lead the team.
All right. Well, we've gone like much farther than I thought I did. Thank you for your patience of leaving me on here, man. Thank you again so much.
You got it, man. Thank you for having me.
All right, man. We're thinking about closing this out. Thanks to guys for everyone who showed up and checked out the stream. If you haven't subscribed to Entertainah, I'd be surprised, but make sure you check out his channel for daily videos. Also, as a new movie channel as well. That was pretty cool that he did with your brother, correct?
Yeah. Me and my brother were talking movies. Yep.
Is he a diehard Giants fan as well?
He's no, he's not. He's a Giants fan, but not a diehard. He's a movie guy. So that's he's obsessed with movies. So that's why I figured I'd start the movie channel with him. But I definitely love movies too. But I would say he's obsessed with movies. I'm obsessed with sports.
Okay, well that's a nice little balance then.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, yeah, let me get off before I start talking for another 20, 30 minutes, man. Thank you again. Hope to have you on again soon, and I'll see you guys on the next video.
All right, guys. Have a good one.